What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into a very special NBA playoffs preview presented by Celtics Talk Weekly. We are joined with a very special guest, Will Weir from the Green with Envy podcast. You have been on before. You were on for the trade deadline. Thank you so much, Will, for hopping on. Guys, it's finally here, the most exciting time of the year for us basketball fans, the NBA playoffs. Obviously, tonight, the final sets of playing games take place. That Miami versus Atlanta matchup, Dallas versus Memphis. We're going to see those take place. And finally, the bracket will be set. However, we're going to give you guys a breakdown of the bracket here. Pretty much completely done as a totality. Obviously, Seamus Zarlingo joined with me. I forgot about you over there, man. I'm sorry. I had to make sure. I can't. How could I? But let's get right into this. Let's get right into this. Into the bracket here. Starting off in the Eastern Conference, guys. Cleveland versus either Atlanta or Miami. Obviously, again, that game is tonight. We will know for sure. However, I got a strange feeling that for you guys, it doesn't move the needle who their opponent is. However, Will, let me know where you're at in terms of Cleveland versus either one of these frisky playing teams.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me here, guys. Happy to be back, but you nailed it, man. It doesn't matter. Atlanta, Miami, line them up, ball up top. Cavs are taking this one. You know, this is a sweep, gentleman's sweep. It's not going beyond that, right? Like maybe one of these teams can sneak in a game, but both Atlanta and Miami, like in this play-in game, it's just a JV version of the play-in, right? This is the play-in tournament. I love that it forces teams to really care about those top 6 seeds. The actual games themselves outside of 7-8 are usually pretty uninteresting to me, if I'm just being brutally honest. And so when I look at Atlanta, Miami, neither of these teams, like there's no hint of, you know, the Miami 8 seed that the Celtics faced a couple of years ago, where it was a team that felt like it pretty dramatically underperformed, and you had 2 All-Stars there. And you could still say there's 2 All-Stars there, as Tyler Hero did make the All-Star team this year. You have Bam Adebayo, who's kind of had a bit of a weird year. Like, I actually still think Miami's probably at this time probably a little bit better than Atlanta after Atlanta traded off some of their guys to be able to give some more development to their younger players. But end of the day, Cleveland is a very well-deserving 1 seed, and they're a 1 seed for a reason with their top-end talent. They're one of the few teams that even get close to matching the Celtics from a top-end talent perspective. So in a 1-8 matchup, I think this is an easy sweep, gentleman's sweep, however you want to look at it. Doesn't matter if it's the Hawks or if it's the Heat.
Yeah, no doubt. In this series, whether it's the Heat or the Hawks, the Cavaliers, they should either take it in 4 or 5. I don't see, Rob, you said it perfectly. It doesn't move the needle. And what's so funny, we have so many conversations about the play-in tournament throughout the season, and when it comes up about the play-in tournament, is it really does it have enough chutzpah to stay in the NBA? I don't like this dynamic where the Cavs and the Thunder, they're the last teams to know their playoff opponent. Just think, if you're the Nuggets, the Clippers, anybody out there who knows their playoff opponent already, I mean, even the 2 seeds, they've been preparing for a week now. And the 1 seeds, what, they have to wait till Friday to know who they're playing on Sunday? Seems a little jaded in that perspective. But regardless, the 1-8 matchup, it's always the matchup in which is the worst come first round, because the 8 seeds, in this year's bracket, now in the West, we saw there was a huge discrepancy between the 8 and the 9, and then of course the 10. But out east, the 8 seed here, whether it was, the Hawks ended up as the 8 seed, and then the Heat and Bulls, they were down there at 9 and 10. It was close. It was close. And you could have ultimately seen the Magic or the Hawks, who were the 7 and 8 matchup, they fall down to 9 or 10. And either of these teams, I just don't think pose a threat to the Cavaliers whatsoever. You saw Will, you were on here when the news broke of the Cavaliers trading for DeAndre Hunter from the Atlanta Hawks earlier this season. And it just felt like at that moment in time, Atlanta, now they've been 500 for this entire decade so far, half decade. They made the conference finals in 2021, but outside of that, they've been a 500 basketball team. But ever since they traded DeAndre Hunter away, Bogdanovich, a lot of questions have surrounded the Hawks. And that playing game the other night gave me the feel of 1-2-3 Cancun. 100%. The Hawks were out of there. They were going there. I mean, the effort level was pretty laughable. And I do think, the trade earlier this season, some of the trades made by the Hawks earlier this season, put them in that state of potentially a limbo year in which they could make a lot of moves. come summertime. A lot of big changes could be coming on the horizon for the Hawks, and I do see them as a team just kind of bowing out at this point in time. Whereas I see the Heat as potentially a team that they could be I don't want to say tough first round series for Cleveland, but I think they'd bring more physicality. I think they'd bring more star power to the series, more looks. And obviously, I just think from a head coaching perspective, anytime you have Eric Spoelstra in a series, you're going up against a really tactically sound head coach. And from I believe tonight we're going to see Miami win that playing game, and we're going to see the LeBron Bowl in round one. The Cavs and the Heat face each other. But I don't think the Heat have enough firepower, enough offensive creation to stay with the Cavaliers
Yeah.
over time. I think they'll give them some trouble defensively here and there, but the Cavaliers all year, they've been just a prolific offensive team. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, and them running the pick and roll with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. And then you have DeAndre Hunter slotted in there. And just think Atlanta, Caris LeVert, Georges Niang, they're playing real minutes with Atlanta right now. And it's not looking all that great with the Hawks. And yet, with the Cavaliers, they shed those two players off their roster, insert DeAndre Hunter, and I think it does them some good in this series, and then it's going to do them some good in the playoffs as well. But this one doesn't need much conversation because the Cavs, barring just a major disaster, an injury to Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, anybody like that, you're going to see the Cavaliers exit round one and do it in a fairly easy fashion against either the Heat or the Hawks. And I would say the Heat, they probably have the upper hand on the Hawks at this point in time, who just look to be bowing out of their season. I almost want to talk about them as they're going to bow out of the series, but they might do it tonight against the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat, I think, have a little bit more fight in them, but I still don't see them having the talent, the skill sets to actually hang offensively with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And also from a defensive perspective, I don't think the Miami Heat have enough. I would say from the Cavs defensive perspective, I think that there are some matchups there in which they actually like against the Miami Heat, despite the Heat having two All-Stars. I just don't think the two All-Stars on the Heat, Hero and Adebayo, they're C-listers, they're B-listers. They're not exactly the guys who are going to take everybody to the next level with themselves.
Right.
And I think we could also see them struggle in this series. So give me the Cavs in 4. If it's not 4, give me 5. But we all know these 1-8 matchups. Quick, get them out of there. This is the real case to bring back the 3-game series in round one if you're down 3-0. It'll be this series right here.
I'm with you guys. I agree. I think this is Miami's game to take tonight. Trae Young quit with 5 minutes left in the fourth. He just said, I don't want to be here. Screw this. I'm out of here. Gets ejected. Miami, they're this delusional team that every year, and they've done it rightfully so. Every year they think they have a chance to go on a run. And I think they think that again. So they think they're playing with something to prove. I think from a game planning standpoint, Atlanta would be a freebie. I still think Miami's a freebie, but from a game planning, when you have Garland out there who's a smaller guard and you get a matchup on Trae Young, it's a free series for him not to get exposed. And I think that's big. So I agree. If it's Atlanta, it's definitely 4. Miami's so they're pesky, and
you give Spo 1 maybe, right?
Right.
It might be that, but yeah.
Hero's going to get hot one game, and Bam's going to cause havoc down there to grab a game. We've seen this before as Celtics fans just last year. So no, I'm with you guys. Miami, I got Cleveland in 5. Atlanta, I'd be shocked if they win tonight. If they do win, 4.
You could also make this case for Miami too. They're kind of coming together as a squad after the trade deadline, after everything was turbulent with Jimmy Butler. Kyle Anderson comes in, Andrew Wiggins, Davion Mitchell. They're kind of, they had that stretch where they were awful. They were like 4-13 in a 17-game sample size. But I feel like near the end of the season, they were starting to come together a little bit more, whereas the Hawks, ever since the trade deadline, it just felt like they started to unravel. And that's why also that you could see the Heat this series potentially give the Cavs a little bit more of a run. I could see the Heat pushing it 5. I think if the Hawks come out and win this playing game tonight, I think it's a 4-game series against the Cavs. So either or, the Cavs are going to make it out of this series.
No doubt. Let's hop into the next one, because this to me is the most interesting matchup of the Eastern Conference in the first round. This is, to me, what all the eyes need to be on. Indiana versus Milwaukee, a rematch what we saw last year. A lot of different opinions on Indiana. This is an Indiana team with high expectations coming into the year, guys. Tyrese Halliburton kind of up and down, falls off a cliff to start the year. He figures it out. Indiana gets the ball rolling. Will, where are you at with this series, because I think this is the most pick-em 50-50 one we got in a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah, we started talking about this a little bit off air. Indiana plays such a unique style, and we've seen that, as Celtics fans, like that was the series that, Joe Mazzulla said openly, that was our most difficult series last year. And that was the one series that the Celtics swept, right? And that was the game. We saw every game kind of go down to the wire. The Pacers would build a big lead. Celtics had that big comeback in game 3. Like, this is a team that, they just play a different style, and they do a lot of offensively. They have a lot of movement that kind of is below the 3-point line, right? Like, so it's really hard for teams that are trying to switch, which is part of what the Celtics were doing. And you can get lost real easy. You get lost for 1 second. There's an open 3. There's an open guy at the rim. And when you add in Tyrese Halliburton, who you kind of mentioned, started the season slow, was a little bit up and down. By the end of the season, he's got a really good chance here of ending up on that third team All-NBA. Like, there's a very good chance that he ends up there, as the Pacers ended up with 50 wins. Like, this is a real solid team right here. And then on the flip side, you have the Bucks, where, we got the update from Shams that it looks like Damian Lillard is out game 1, but potential for him to come back game 2 or 3, coming back from that, from those blood clot contusions, getting off the medication, the blood thinners. And so we'll have to see where that plays out. But to me, this is, do you lean into the better team, which I think for me is pretty obviously the Pacers, or do you lean into the best player in the series, which is pretty obviously Giannis?
Right, exactly.
And this really, to me, just comes down, is Giannis, and this is kind of almost to a degree with or without Dame, I still think the Pacers are the better team. And it comes down to me, is Giannis able to carry his team all the way through? Like, I think Giannis is going to put up some crazy monster numbers in this series.
Right.
Like, you're going to be seeing like 35 and 18 is like the averages that you get from Giannis, who, by the way, has had an amazing season, 30, 12, and 6. It's kind of gone somewhat under the radar just because the Bucks haven't been great. And I've been so off the Bucks as a real threat in the East since they traded Chris Middleton for Kyle Kuzma. That was the same podcast I was on here with you guys. I can't remember if that trade had happened at that time yet, but to me, that just told me everything about how you feel about this team, because even if you think Kuzma is more talented or even just more available than Chris Middleton, the chemistry Chris Middleton had with Giannis, with Brook Lopez, with Bobby Portis, like that gave the Bucks still a little bit of a chance of a higher ceiling than what Kuzma brings. So I've just been so off of everything outside of Giannis happening around the Bucks this whole season that I find it hard to believe that they're going to put it together. And if they do, it's strictly on the greatness of Giannis. So for me, I think this is a Pacers series. I think it probably goes 6 is what I'm kind of leaning. If it goes 7, then, anything happens in a game 7. And that's where I do think at times the statement of best player in the series can actually hold more weight than it does throughout the entirety of the series. But I think in that one game, you really could see just Giannis go off and be a difference maker on both sides. So for me, I think 6 games, I'm leaning Pacers. I think the Pacers are just such a unique team, and they're just an overall better team with a high, with having players like Halliburton and Siakam that are borderline all NBA. So for me, this is Pacers in 6.
Yeah, I would have to say the same thing. And you said it right there, Will. You have the obvious best team in the series, in which is the Pacers, versus the obvious best player in the series, in which is Giannis. And I do believe the Pacers just have way more than the Milwaukee Bucks coming into this series. And I'm out on the Bucks. All right. Halfway through the season, I was thinking, all right, maybe the Bucks, making a little push. They won the NBA. The one moment in which people started to come around on the Bucks again was early December. They whooped the Thunder in the NBA Cup final, which looking back at that, where I'm questioning, like, how did that happen that night in Vegas? I mean, you look at the records, you look at how their seasons went, but the Bucks, everybody kind of turned on them at that point, started to turn up on them at that point. But I feel like ever since then, just hasn't been all that great of results. It's been mixed results for the Bucks, whether it's because of Giannis's injury earlier this season, now Damian Lillard dealing with blood clots, and that's going to be an interesting piece of this series that has to be discussed, because if Damian Lillard plays, I think the Bucks have a legitimate chance. If he doesn't play, now it's expected that he will play, I will say this, but if he doesn't play, I think the Bucks have no chance whatsoever.
Right.
Regardless, he's supposed to play in this series. However, how long is he going to last? Because he's dealing with a serious issue. The issue he's dealing with is something that can kill a human. And we've seen players sit out for long stretches of time. We even saw Chris Bosh retire because of blood clots. And now Damian Lillard, he's dealing with that same issue. He's just going to try to push through and play. I'm not really sure what kind of ramifications that could have on himself out on the basketball floor. And if some kind of durability is compromised with Damian Lillard later on down the line in the series, I could see a world in which Damian Lillard maybe plays games 1 and 2 and then he misses the rest of the series. I think under those circumstances, that's where I'm looking at the Bucks going. How sustainable is the Damian Lillard factor in all of this? Because the Bucks are going to need him. Now, I'll say this as well when it comes to Damian Lillard. He's going to be somebody the Pacers can pick on defensively, and the Bucks have a lot of players in which the Pacers can pick on defensively. And I always look at this from a Celtics perspective too. It's like you look at the Bucks, there are just too many players in which you feel comfortable with if you're another team picking apart defensively. And like that's guys like Damian Lillard. You could have Gary Trent out there, Kevin Porter Jr. He's been all right defensively, but he's another guy you could go at times. And Ryan Rollins out of nowhere, just playing major minutes with the Milwaukee Bucks. Anytime I see something like that with a contending team where, you think back to the Warriors, they were able to make it work at times. Like see Jordan Bell in the lineup, Ian Clark, you're going, I don't know, like you're barely hanging on here with your rotations. And now we know the Warriors were ultra talented and able to make up for a lot of that. But the Bucks, they're one guy, Chris Middleton at the top of the roster. You'd think, okay, Giannis, Lillard, those are 2 all-stars right there. Middleton fell off before they expected him to fall off. I mean, he did double ankle surgery, and he clearly
he was
wasn't as
always the
effective.
key to the Dame trade, right? That's the number one thing I always said, and it was, listen, the Dame trade I get, and it to me, like, obviously it worked out very well for Celtics fans. Like they should have, in hindsight, the fact that they didn't make that a 3-way team was probably the biggest fatal flaw of that trade for the Bucks. But the biggest thing for me was listen, this all only works if Chris Middleton is the Chris Middleton that used to torture the Celtics in the playoffs a couple years ago, right? Like if you were getting that level of Chris Middleton, that's all-star, all NBA level, can handle the ball, is a solid defender, knockdown shooter, and he just has not or was not healthy until they traded him. And really the only time Chris Middleton was healthy in this whole Dame era was last year. As you mentioned, this was the playoffs in the first round last year, and Middleton was amazing. And then he immediately got double ankle surgery, but there was no Giannis. Dame was in and out in that series. And so that's where really all of this Bucks planning has kind of fallen apart, is that Middleton has not been there to really complete kind of that big 3 and then have supporting guys around it. So to your point about Dame playing or not, this could be, there's a world where this is the make or break for the Dame Giannis pairing, and we go into an unsure offseason and kind of see how it all plays out from there.
Well, that also, that the Middleton thing, when it comes to all this, I do look at the rest of the roster, and I obviously, you could, the Middleton Kuzma trade happens, you just take Kuzma out of there, replace him with Middleton. But if you have Middleton still in this lineup and he's still producing at an all-star level, you could definitely make the case that this team would be like 5 times better. Put a number on it, but I mean, multiple times better than what they are right now with their current squad, because I do see, there is some desperation moves within all this. I mean, Kevin Porter Jr., perfect example. Halfway through the season, Marjon Beauchamp, who wasn't necessarily producing for the Bucks. I was always a Marjon Beauchamp guy. I was like, can this guy, like, can he develop a shot? Can he get out there? Can he defend multiple positions? But they trade him away for Kevin Porter Jr. And Kevin Porter Jr., he's not the best player in the world, but he gives you something offensively, can handle the ball. And there are bright spots within his game. We all know most of the Kevin Porter Jr. nonsense has happened off court, in which has ousted him from a couple of teams already in his NBA career, most notably the Cavs and the Rockets. But Kevin Porter Jr., that's a move of desperation. Ryan Rollins, that's a move of desperation. And in all of this, I go, well, the Bucks, if they had a third star and if they had Middleton producing at the level in which he did in the past, a lot of these fringe moves would look a lot better than simply desperation. And that's what I see with the Bucks right now, is they're simply a desperate team. And going into this series, I know a lot of people want to put the whole, Giannis factor on everything and say, well, Giannis, best player in the series. Really, it's hard to pick against the best player in the series, but I do think these two teams, there's a big enough discrepancy between both of them to feel comfortable picking Indiana. And I do like your pick there, Will, of Indiana in 6. The more I look at it, I think Indiana will I think they'll overcome Milwaukee pretty quickly in this series. I think Milwaukee will at least grab one game. And then you're saying, the Giannis factor, I could see him going for a really big night, and the Bucks might not play well all around, but he might have a really good night. And I could see this series going 6, but I think this is a lot more oriented towards the Pacers than people believe out there. Just because you look at where the two teams have gone this season and some of the injuries and desperation the Bucks are reaching for. Meanwhile, the Pacers just feels like they've gotten stronger as time has moved on, and they're going to have more weapons this time around in the playoffs. Pascal Siakam's been there a whole year. They're going to have Benedict Mathurin all healthy. Same with Tyrese Halliburton. I think this is going to be a much better team come this playoff run for the Pacers than even last year. Meanwhile, the Bucks, you can make an argument and a case that this team is actually worse than their team last year, and the Pacers were able to make easy business of them. Now, Giannis wasn't in that series, as you mentioned. Dame in and out, and Miss Middleton, he was involved, but this year, I think Damian Lillard. I don't know what his true potential is in this series. Both speaking on his games and what he's going to look like out there, because he has missed the last however many weeks with this injury, and he's going to be ramping back up into play. And then you don't have that third star, and you have a lot of pieces on this team that I don't think Doc Rivers actually believes in. I don't think anybody in the Bucks front office believes in. But it's like, well, who else do we have to play out here? Throw out Ryan Rollins, throw out Kevin Porter Jr. because we just traded for him. Go and try to make every move out there in order for us to win ball games. And I feel like the Bucks are piecing it together way more than the Pacers right now. I feel like the Pacers are finding more of their groove, especially the second half of the season. Meanwhile, the Bucks, it just feels like they've been constantly putting duct tape and scotch tape all over their team until they finally made the playoffs with a 5 seed at the end of the day. But give me Pacers all day, every day in this series. I was back and forth at the beginning, but I gotta say the Pacers. Just doing the research on all these series, it's definitely the Pacers that I would say have the upper hand at this point in time.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. The thing, Indiana to me is the team outside of Boston. I look out in the Eastern Conference and I'm like, okay, they kind of have all the tools to kind of really make a run at it. Especially the experience factor with Indiana. Will, you mentioned it. They were one prior deep playoff run away from pushing Boston to 6 or 7 games. I mean, at the end of the day, Boston just kind of outclassed them. At the end of, game 1, Brown hits that shot. Halliburton, the ball goes off his leg in transition, gives Boston life. Boston eventually capitalizes on that. You mentioned it, game 3, they have this big lead. Here comes Tatum and
1
Horford.
and 3 should have been Pacers wins. If you were to go back and re-simulate those scenarios, the percentages would play out that likely that's a 2-2 series coming back to Boston for game 5.
Without a doubt. And they were just one playoff run away from being able to execute those games. So I look at this Indiana team, and hadn't Halliburton gone MIA for the first 30 games, this is a potentially high 50-win ball club. And I don't say that lightly. However, Giannis is that category and tier of player where this is now 3 postseasons post NBA finals win that you're kind of waiting for this guy to get back to the conference finals. Like, he's gonna eventually do it, but it's like, when is he gonna do it? So that's the one thing that's like, does Milwaukee and Giannis, are they just long overdue for just a random conference finals appearance? And I'm gonna go Indiana in 7. I don't hate 6 at all. The one thing, game 6 is in Milwaukee. And I think when down 3-2, I don't see Giannis. Will, you mentioned Giannis, just monster games. That's got Giannis game 6, 45, 20, and 8 just written all over it in my head. So in the back of my mind, I say if Indiana's going to do this, it's either going to be in dominating 4 or 5 game fashion, which I don't likely see, or where it's a game 7 that they kind of handily take. In game 6 is just the Giannis game. I don't rule out Milwaukee, though. I don't. Anytime you got Giannis, you got a chance. He is in that class of players that you don't see Jokic lose often in anything less than 6. You don't see Tatum lose often.
I think the Bucks and Nuggets are so similar, man. It's if both of them win, it's because Jokic is that special. If the Bucks win, it's because Giannis is that special. And it feels almost an oversimplistic explanation of why they would win, but those to me, and I know I'm saying this to a Celtics audience, I still think I probably look at those 2 guys as the 2 best players in the NBA. Tatum and SGA are right there on their heels, in my opinion. But I still kind of look at those two guys as the best, even though they both might get eliminated in the first round. So that feels kind of wrong to say. But if they both get out of the first round, it's going to be on the backs of them doing something really, really special.
But I'll add on to that. This series and even the Nuggets series could display this as well. I think Giannis is going to have to be an absolute superhero in this series, 100%. And that's why the Nuggets and the Bucks, like, if they win these series, the first round series that they have in front of them, because Clippers and Pacers, they're going to be formidable matchups. It's going to be a huge testament to how well Giannis and Jokic played in the series, because the Bucks, just looking at the Bucks, there's way too much reliance on Kyle Kuzma, Taurean Prince, Gary Trent Jr. Bobby Portis came back into the lineup. Everybody in Milwaukee, I mean, basically had a parade over Bobby Portis coming back. It was ridiculous. All of these players, you hear those names, and there's just, it's like, really, these are the forwards? Really, these are the offensive, potential creators you have on your roster? You don't really have too much on either end of the floor with some of those names when you're talking about the Bucks and who they rely on within their rotation to defend and both produce offensively. And that's just going to lead to Giannis, both defensively, offensively as well with him. He's going to have monster series. He's going to have to lock down defensively. And this Pacers team, they're going to have a lot of size they throw at Milwaukee. I'll say that the Pacers are oddly versatile and oddly sizable for the team they had last season. Everybody kind of got on board with, oh, this high-paced team, they shoot a lot of threes, offense. This is a sizable squad the Pacers have. I think they're going to throw that size at Milwaukee. And in the series, Giannis is going to have to deal with it a lot defensively, but also offensively as well. He's going to have to come up with the bulk of the creation of the points, the bulk of the as well as Damian Lillard coming up with part of the bulk of the points. But just looking at the Pacers real quick and some of their roster, I think they have the ability to play in multiple ways. Like, if you really look, they can go about 10 deep, and through that, I think they have multiple different styles of play. And I'm just going to throw this out there right now, and we talked about it before we came into the live stream. I would not be shocked whatsoever. We just talked about the Cavs, talked about the Pacers. I would not be shocked whatsoever if that's a second round series, the Cavs and Pacers, and the Pacers actually give the Cavs a run for their money. Because I think the Pacers, even though their record has them in the 4 slot, they have the versatility to potentially match teams like the Cavs and even like the Celtics at the bottom half of the bracket. And I would not be shocked whatsoever if we had a repeat of last year's conference finals between the Celtics and the Pacers. It seemed crazy halfway through this season, but as the playoffs shaped up, as the season, the regular season rolled down, I do think the Pacers, at the beginning of the season, I was looking at them going, there's more size there than people think. There's more versatility than people think. Now, it didn't, culminate and equate into something good early on, but I feel like once the Pacers found their footing, they were a much better team the second half of the season. And we all know it's about playing well going into the playoffs. And the Pacers were one of the best teams in the league over the last 10 games of the season. So again, Pacers in this series, and even next round, if we're looking at the Pacers and Cavs, I would not be shocked if the Pacers give the Cavs a run for their money and we see a Boston, Indiana conference finals part 2.
I'm real quick before we hop into the next series. I agree with that. I think Cleveland has a real defensive problem that people aren't looking into in a playoff series. In Darius Garland and Jared Allen are the catalyst for that problem. When you got a team like Indiana and Boston that space, move without the ball flies. Indiana and Boston are like the two most high pick and roll centric teams in the Eastern Conference. When Tatum has the ball in his hand and when White has the ball in his hand, and when Halliburton's got that ball and he's working with Turner, Siakam, and vice versa with Porzingis, and it's so dangerous. And you look at Garland and Allen, who are going to be in those action, it's going to cause trouble. And I don't think people are looking into that as enough as they should be. I really do. I like this Indiana team advancing to the Eastern. I'm with you with there off of just strictly mismatch. Cleveland's got defensive problems that I don't think people are looking into. I don't.
Yeah.
Let's hop in real quick though. Just this series is the most overrated series we got. I don't know where you guys stand. Well, I don't know if you're on the Pistons bandwagon. But I will say, New York's a team that I think gets discredited a lot for a handful of bad games. I don't know where you're at, but I think Detroit might be a little bit of fool's gold here.
So I do think the Pistons are an actual good team. I'm a huge Cade fan. I've been a believer in Cade since I've seen, there's a couple games early in his Celtics career, and I think he's got a little Luka to his game. If I'm being honest, he kind of plays at his own pace, and he dictates the game in this way that I really think there's only a handful of guys that when you watch a game, you can see them manipulate that across the board. And I feel like since I was a rookie, I've seen parts of him be able to do that, and so I'm a huge Cade believer. Having said that, I think you're spot on, Robbie. Like I think this series here, and I was talking about this last night with a buddy of mine who's a Knicks fan. This is Knicks in 5. I just think at the end of the day, there's too much of a talent gap outside of Cade Cunningham, because you can convince me. I think Jalen Brunson's the best player in the series, but the top 3 are very obvious. You can slot them however you want. And then from there, the next 4 or 5 guys are probably all Knicks until you get to maybe Jalen Duren, who's probably the Pistons' second best player. On top of that, they just have, we've seen it time and time again. You need on-ball creation in the playoffs. Next guy up after Cade, I mean, this is supposed to be the Jaden Ivey spot, right? And this is what they've surprisingly been able to overcome all season to get to this 6 seed. But now you're looking at, I guess, Dennis Schroeder is kind of your number 2 for on-ball creation. Like we as Celtics fans, even though, I don't mind a little bit of Dennis Schroeder, there's going to be a lot more of Dennis Schroeder needed than anybody needs to be successful. And it's just not a winning recipe. And so, the Pistons are a team on the rise. I do love what they're building and what they have. I live out here in Austin, Texas, and they played the Spurs actually in Austin. So myself and my co-host Greg went to the game. Their athleticism and physicality is real. Like between Asar Thompson and, Jalen Duren, what they bring in with B. Stu, Ron Holland, really they just added some adults to the mix with Tim Hardaway and Tobias Harris and Malik Beasley this year. And that's really been one of the biggest differences, just mixing this youth with some adults in the room. But ultimately, when you look at this Knicks team, this is the Knicks, even though they're a bad matchup for the Celtics, they're one of the few teams in the NBA that from a talent level at that top 6-7 area are at least in the vicinity. They're in the ballpark. Right. They're in the area that you can have a rational conversation of these top 6 versus that top 6. The matchup just doesn't dictate that against the Celtics, but against this Pistons team, I think it's going to be overwhelming. I think it's going to be a series where Pistons are going to try and goon it up a bit. Like, Beef Stew, Ron Holland, they're going to get in the mix. They're going to get scrappy. I think there's going to be a couple times where it feels like it's closer than it really is. But the talent gap is just really, I think, going to eventually show itself in this. And the Pistons are a guy or two, specifically that Jaden Ivey, that second creator, that second guy that can go get his own bucket and help create for others. They just don't have enough of that. It's too much on Cade's shoulders. And so with that, the Knicks, I think, are easy going to take this one. Like I said, there's going to be a few moments that make it feel tighter than it is. But at the end of the day, the Knicks have too much. Jalen Brunson, Cat, I think they're going to be able to spam. They're going to be able to spam the Pistons with their pick and roll, pick and pop. It's one of the best in the NBA. And then you're able to then have, Mikal and OG in their respective roles in which they've been able to grow a little bit with Jalen Brunson being hurt. The Knicks held up pretty well in those non-Jalen Brunson games. And I think ultimately they're going to actually get some benefits of that in this series. And yeah, I just don't see a world in which the Pistons are pulling this off unless the Knicks really find a way to beat themselves, or Jalen Brunson's injury reoccurs, or there's something along those lines that we can't predict at this time. To me, this is overwhelming talent versus a team that's spirited on the come up. But I got Knicks in 5 for this one.
Yeah, this is a series between a legitimately built team versus a thrown together team. That's how I see it. The Pistons, despite them having a lot of talent on their roster, I think they actually have, if you not in terms of talent as a whole, but just in terms of deep, like the depth of the 2 rosters, I do see the Pistons having a couple more players on the back end of the rotation that could do something aside from the Knicks, who we've known their rotation's been a little thin all season. But Will, you mentioned it at the top, the talent discrepancy is quite stark. When you have a player like Karl Anthony Towns, who he's really statistically one of the best big men in NBA history. Now, there's a bunch of debates out there, whatever. We know how good he is as a big guy, particularly on the offensive end of the floor. When you have him on the roster along with Jalen Brunson, I think Jalen Brunson and Cade Cunningham, there could be some canceling out in this series from them. Now, I do see Cade Cunningham as a better playmaker than Jalen Brunson. I see Jalen Brunson as a more crafty scorer, even though Cade Cunningham is certainly coming up in that category every single year of his career. I could see that kind of canceling itself out a little bit this series, even though I would not be surprised if Cade Cunningham does establish himself as not the best player in this series, but very close to it. But that's where I think Karl Anthony Towns could just have so much impact. You do look at some of what Detroit has to throw at Karl Anthony Towns. It's guys like Jalen Duren. It's guys like Isaiah Stewart. You have those two bigs in the Pistons lineup, and I just don't think that's enough to throw at Karl Anthony Towns. Now, I know people love Jalen Duren, but Jalen Duren, we got to remind ourselves, very young player. I mean, Detroit, they had 14 wins last season, but last season Detroit tried to replicate the we have young core, we have young guys on our roster. Now we want to bring some veteran talent in and kind of surround them. Last year's veteran talent didn't do anything. They hardly played. They weren't impactful. Nothing. This year's veteran talent, however, you have Tobias Harris in the lineup. Malik Beasley, who's going to probably be second and sixth man of the year behind Pritchard. You have Tim Hardaway Jr. also. So Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley, and halfway through the season they added Dennis Schroeder as well. Great additions to this young core the Pistons added on to, and it took them to the sixth seed this year. And they all have chips on their shoulders from where they've been to the point where they've meshed well with this Pistons team, and they've come in and actually embraced that Detroit basketball culture. But I'll say this, all these guys, they're kind of everybody else's scraps in which the Pistons picked up off the street. It's like, oh, Tim Hardaway Jr. The Mavs didn't want Tim Hardaway Jr. Yeah, we'll take Tim Hardaway Jr. It's like, oh, Dennis Schroeder, the Heat didn't want him, the Warriors didn't want him, the Nets didn't want him. Okay, cool, for all different circumstances. Cool, we'll take Dennis Schroeder. We'll take him off your hands. Oh, Tobias Harris, the Sixers don't want him. Okay, yeah, we'll take him off your hands. Malik Beasley, the Bucks, they don't want you. Okay, we'll take you off your hands. And the Pistons have built their team through everybody else's like, we don't want Tim Hardaway. We don't want Tobias Harris. And that's where I look at this matchup and go, well, the Knicks, they're specifically built for this time of year. I mean, if you look at their starting lineup, you have Brunson and Towns, your two primary offensive creators, but in the middle, Hart, Anunoby, Bridges, those three guys in there, they're going to defend their asses off. They're going to be complete hound dogs on the floor. And we know, like, that's kind of the weird dynamic with the Knicks. You have your two offensive creators who are probably your two biggest defensive liabilities on the floor. But then your stalwarts defensively, they're probably more of your like in terms of offense, they're not creating as much as those two other guys. I would like to see New York use Bridges a little bit more within creating offense, letting him create his own offense. I could see a Middleton role with the Knicks for Mikal Bridges if Tom Thibodeau were to be a little bit more innovative in that way. However, we don't really see that with the Knicks, but that's kind of a conversation for another time, another series, maybe later on down the line. But in this series between the Knicks and Pistons, I think the Knicks are going to have enough defensively to throw at the Pistons to really stymie them. I think the experience matters here. You see, they're just more veteran. The Knicks are a more veteran-led squad than the Pistons, and the Pistons. Let's just say this as well. The Pistons, everybody loves them because they went 10-1 between basically a month stretch in March. They went 10-1, and in those 10 games, there was an 8-game winning streak. Now it included the Clippers and the Celtics. We'll say that. So two good teams in there. But I believe it also included 2 play-in teams or no, I guess the Clippers at the time, I was counting them as a playoff team. So you had 2 playoff teams, 2 play-in teams, and basically 4 lottery teams. Like the Pistons beat the Sixers, the Nets, the Hornets, Chicago twice. It was a run in which you looked at and went, this is just mostly tanking teams. This is mostly garbage teams at the bottom of the league. And the Pistons, they feasted off of all these squads, the veteran talent, which they had the developing young players. And they went 10-1 in March and had that 8-game winning streak. And everybody freaked out on the Pistons because of that moment. But ever since then, the Pistons have been a 500 ball club. And if you look at some of their numbers within some of their league rankings, whether it's rebounding, 3-point shooting, whatever you want to look at, they're middle of the pack in a lot of categories. And I lean more towards the fact this Pistons team is closer to a 500 ball club than an actual contending squad. And on the other side, the Knicks, I don't think they're going to contend with say, the Celtics next round if the Celtics and Knicks face each other. But I do see the Knicks as closer to a contender than the Pistons at this point in time, who are just that new shiny thing out east that everybody wants to look at and think, oh, well, is this the next thing? Is this the next thing? I think the Pistons, they've obviously from last season, tremendous job in the regular season to get them to the 6th seed, get them out of the lottery, get them out of the losing funk. But it only goes so far in the NBA when you have real teams who are put together in off seasons of the past. The Knicks, I mean, it's taken multiple off seasons to get to this point for the New York Knicks, and I think they've built their squad in preparedness for this moment in the playoffs. Whereas the Pistons, it's more of a this worked out. It's like we threw all this together and it worked out throughout the season. And I think in the playoffs that kind of stuff in the playoffs when it comes to how teams were put together, that always comes out come playoff time because when you're playing game after game after game, the team who's put together better than their opponent, I mean, they're always going to win out in those scenarios because they're always going to find the little holes. They're going to find where their advantages are on both ends of the floor. And I think this is going to be a series where we just see the Knicks methodically as the series go on. I think they're actually going to get better and they're eventually going to overcome the Pistons. I would say I'm leaning more Knicks in 6 here. I'll say Knicks in. I've been thinking about Knicks in 5, but I'm leaning towards Knicks in 6. A lot of people love the Pistons, and they'll just come out and say, "Oh, I have the Pistons in the series," blah blah blah. But I don't. I'm not a huge Pistons believer. I hate to say, sorry, Justin Lowe, sorry, Justin out there, sorry, I'm not a huge Pistons believer. But in this series, I wouldn't be surprised if they do grab 2 games against the New York Knicks.
It's tough. It's tough. I'm all over the Knicks. You guys nailed it. First of what the most important factor of this series is Detroit being in the playoffs after what they did last year. Like that alone is a successful year. JB Bickerstaff, Cade Cunningham, the two of them, they brought a winning culture back to Detroit. So no matter the outcome, Detroit's season was miles of success. I mean, huge shout out to what Detroit did this year. However, you guys alluded to it. I mean, New York is built for the playoffs. They are against Boston and Cleveland and OKC. Sure, they struggled. Yeah. But I mean, we're talking, I mean, again, I would be shocked if New York loses this series or even has this thing go past 6. I'm all over Knicks in 5. I agree. Cade, if you say he's the best player in the series, up for debate. I mean, Will, you said the next 5 or 6 guys are all in the Knicks.
Right.
There's like 4 of those guys on the Knicks where any given night they could be the best player in the series on any like for a 1 period game stretch. Bridges, Anunoby, Cat, Brunson. That's a hefty top 4. Detroit, if they're gonna do it, they're gonna have to muck up this series. I mean, they're gonna have to make it a dogfight, which they could do. You got Stu and you got Ron Holland and Cade's a dog. I mean, and Durant. I mean, you got some dogs on this on that team. But I don't know if they're ready to step into Madison Square Garden quite yet. It's a different beast. It's tough. It's the playoffs. So I'm with you. I'm gonna go Knicks in 5, but I also could see Detroit somehow like mucking up 1 extra game on some controversial ending, and you never know in the playoffs. So I could see 6. I don't see a world of 7. I don't see a sweep. I'm gonna say 5 or 6 is the sweet spot. And let's head off to this next one, which Seamus, you've already talked about a little bit.
All right, fellas, I do apologize. I gotta drop here, fellas.
No worries.
Can't wait for the playoffs. Appreciate you guys having me. For those listening, you can check us out. Green with MB podcast is my Celtics podcast that I have with my co-host Greg Manakis, part of Blue Wire. Guys, best of luck. We'll probably link up again here in the postseason. Yes. Banner 19 coming.
Definitely. Let's do it. All his links will be in the description. We'll make sure we drop it. Shout out to Will for coming on. He's always a great guest to have. Seamus, you talked a little bit about this matchup already. We also talked about on the last post-game show of the season, Celtics Magic. You wanted to see Atlanta. I wanted to see Orlando. Polar ends of the spectrum. We got Orlando. I don't know where you're at now. Personally speaking, I'm a happy camper. I'm good with Orlando. I don't know where you're at though.
Well, I would say we got to be happy with any matchup we got out of the play-in because all those teams are just give us any of them round 1, really.
Right.
But after that playing game, I will say Atlanta geez, the morale in Atlanta, I was not particularly impressed
Dumpster
with it.
fire.
I mean, seriously, it was a little rough in that play game. I do think the Magic, there's a little bit more spirit to their team. We've talked about this playoff series, kind of this throughout this week after the playing game actually happened. But this is a series in which the Celtics, they're going to have to kind of go a little bit out of their zone to win. I don't think the Celtics are going to win this game by methodically just mismatch hunting over and over again. I don't think the Celtics can play a methodical style of basketball in this series. I think what the Celtics are going to have to do is they're going to have to come up with turnovers. They're going to have to push the pace. They're going to have to take care of the ball. They're going to have to physically rebound in the series, and they're going to have to overcome the Magic in very nefarious ways. And it's going to be more in the hustle categories than anything else. That's why I feel like the matchups in this series for the Celtics. Looking at this Orlando Magic team, they're kind of, I mentioned with Franco last night, they're kind of like the Pittsburgh Steelers of the NBA because they kind of
Okay.
just they kind of just piece it together. It's like offensively, they seriously have nothing. Like you look
Right.
at their team in terms of creation, it's like, wow, this team really needs a ball handler who can create for somebody else because they simply don't have it. Their best ball handler who can create for somebody else right now on the floor is Paulo Banchero. And he's
Right.
in what, year three? He's in
3?
year three right now, and basically year 2.5 because he missed half of this season. But he's in year three, and I was comparing with last night with Franco. I was saying, well, imagine Tatum and Brown in year three. That was 1920 for Jason Tatum. That's only when he started to arise. That's only when Jason Tatum really started to come to the party, and it took at least 3 or 4 more seasons to see Jason Tatum ascended to true superstar level from where he was in 1920, even though he was putting up all-star numbers in the playoffs, where his true potential was and where his peak is now, far beyond 19 and 20. Brown was 18, 19. That was year three for Jalen Brown, and that was a disaster season for everybody involved in the 2018-19 Celtics, including Brown. But you look at those two guys and their progression, it's like, yeah, in year three, guess what? They were not ready to carry an entire team in the NBA playoffs and carry them for multiple rounds. Now we know Brown and Tatum, they had each other, another great talent on the roster, but Paulo Banchero, he has Franz Wagner. That's kind of the Brown and Tatum pairing there. But outside of that, it's like KCP, Goga, Wendell Carter. It's like they don't have Tristan Da Silva. The rest of the roster is very young. Cole Anthony, the rest of the roster isn't as good as the Celtics rosters of the past, in which Tatum and Brown, they were making it through the playoffs on. And we were seeing them come out as stars, but they had other supporting cast members around them. This Orlando Magic team, they don't have supporting cast members around Boncaro and Wagner the way Brown and Tatum had cast members around themselves. And in this series, the Magic, they simply do not have a consistent offensive creator. And I think what the Celtics are going to end up doing is they're going to put a lot of pressure on Boncaro. They're going to let Franz Wagner kind of, get his where he can get them. And I don't think Wagner's a good enough playmaker and a shooter at that, both a shooter and a playmaker to really make enough offense within the series. And you just look at the rest of the roster. The 3-point shooting is absolutely awful. The creation is awful for the Orlando Magic. And what the Magic are going to want to do is flip that coin 3 times in order to get the 66% instead of flipping it 100 times to get that
Right.
66%. That's what the Magic are going to want to do. And that's why the Celtics can't just look at it from a methodical matchup standpoint, because defensively, the Magic are one of the best teams in the league. They're first in defensive rating, period, in the NBA. They're first in defensive rebounding percentage. And you do look at the roster, there are not a ton of guys in which the Celtics can just go out and hunt. It's Cole Anthony, it's Corey Joseph. You might pick on Anthony Black a little bit. It's like outside of that, you do have some bodies out there for the Magic who can really defend. Some of the big guys, you're going to pick on from a speed
Yeah,
standpoint, like
Wendell can
Goga
go out.
and Wendell Carter. But the Magic, they do have sizable bigs, but the rest of the roster, it's like they can defend. KCP can defend. Wagner can defend. Boncaro can defend. Tristan Silva can defend. All the other young guys, they're 6'8", 6'7", and even above that. And all of the players on the Magic roster, the bulk of them can really get out there and defend. Along with the fact Jamal Mosley, he's a defensive oriented head coach. He's always preached defense, defense, defense. Celtics, they're not going to have a ton of mismatch opportunities in the series unless Orlando just perpetually throws out Cole Anthony and allows switches on a Tatum all night, and we're eating that all day, every night. But offensively, it's like Orlando is awful awful. And they ultimately have to piece together all of these games because they cannot produce offensively at an efficient rate to the point where they can play a high volume game like the way in which the rest of the NBA plays. A lot of teams try to push the pace, push the tempo, more 3-point shots, more opportunities. That's what the Celtics, they've prided themselves off of taking the high volume of threes. Now I could say something else about the pace. But the pace is increasing in the NBA, and quite frankly, the Magic, they don't want to increase the pace because they
Right.
want to keep it at a low volume because they know they cannot keep up with their offensive creation over time between the Celtics and the Magic. And that's where the Celtics, they're going to have to go out of their box. They're going to have to push the pace. Now, this is a series where you're talking about 29th in pace for the Magic, 30th in pace for the Seas. But the Seas, we all know, they have the better ability in terms of, or they have more ability in terms of going outside of their box, pushing the tempo, and playing in a different style. That's what makes them a championship level squad. Is they have the ability to play in so many different ways, and they're going to have to in this series against the Magic. And along with that, they're going to have to rebound the ball. They're going to have to take care of the basketball. They're going to have to get out and run in transition, create turnovers. And that's where I think it's going to be all within the margins. It's going to be the hustle stats, which the Celtics have to win in this series in order to just, I think the sweep is here for the Celtics right in front of themselves. I think last
I
year,
agree.
we literally expected every series last year to be a sweep. 3 of them were 5 games, and I feel like that put in the perception of like, oh, every team's just going to grab one. Every team's going to
Right.
grab one. But seriously, this Orlando Magic team, the Celtics can win all the hustle stats and not fall into and control the pace of the game at an up tempo rate. I think they're going to be able to win the series. But again, they have to do it with all of the things that are in the middle, right? They
Right.
cannot just go out there and win with talent and mismatch hunting and just play the way they always play. If they play the way they always play, they're actually going to find themselves with some trouble in this series because there's not going to be a ton of mismatches to hunt. If you're playing methodically at a low pace, that's when the Magic like to take over and win those rock fights because they understand, oh, if we're keeping these possessions low, it's like we can match these buckets here and there. But if it gets into the 110s, 120s, that's when the Magic can match. If it's down in the 90s, the 100s, it's like, the Celtics, they might, it's like down the stretch, like, are the Celtics going to come up with enough buckets in order to overcome each and every game and really sweep this series? It's going to be a game within the margins, in the trenches for the Celtics. And I looking at it, we were like, oh, who do the Celtics want to play? It's like this Magic team. I think they're going to be a tough little competition for the Seas. That being said, I think this is going to be a 4-game series. I still think it's going to be a 4-game series,
Right.
but I don't. I think every
But like,
game is
but
going
like
to
a
be pretty
4-game series,
physical.
like how Indiana was a 4-game series, and that's how I see the series going.
Right. Right.
Where it's
I
like,
don't see the Celtics just, I see them blowing out a game, sure, like game 4, game 3, or whatever, whenever that
right,
happens. But I think the rest of the games, I would not be surprised if it's like, oh, it's 113, 106, or it's like, oh, 150. Like, I would not be surprised if some of these games, like they're 6, 7 point margins. They're a little closer down the stretch than we think for a typical 4-game series. I think the Magic, they're gonna try to keep the pace low. They're gonna get after the Celtics defensively, and I think that's
right,
gonna that for in terms of bumps and bruises, it's like the Magic round 1. That's why you want to get the series done in 4 games. I think they're gonna bring it to the Celtics because they're gonna have the motivation to do it. They just look it out. I mean, Jalen Suggs is still on the bench there, and Cole Anthony. They're gonna be chirping. They're gonna be talking to guys 100%. And this team is young. Well, they don't really have. They know this season was not. I want to say it was a
it was kind of a
lost
scratch.
season. It's
It
a
was kind of a
lost
scratch.
season
Yeah, it was kind of a scratch.
lost season, but it's like they don't really. It's like there's no pressure for them. It's like this is 7 seed. We're here.
Right.
Like we lost season. There's no pressure. There's no pressure. They're young. They're motivated. They're big. They're physical. It's like this could be a series in which I don't. Again, I still see it as 4 games, but I just see every single game just being a tough physical matchup for the Celtics. And in terms of bumps and bruises going into round 2, it's like, yeah, the Celtics, they might feel it a little bit more from the Magic than say, a team like the Bulls in round 1
Right.
or a team like the Hawks. Like who knows? But
Well,
I either way, I think anybody coming out of the play-in, give me the Celtics in 4. I'm trying not to be a homer here, but I seriously think if the Celtics really play their game and not their game, but the styles of play in which we know they can play, if they really get
Right.
into their X's and O's, they can win the series in 4. It's just about putting in the effort every single game for the series. Franco and I talked about that as well. Franco was talking about, oh, is this team, they've rolled over at times this year. They've gone back and forth. What are we expecting in round 1 when it comes to the C's? I'm expecting this entire team to come out motivated early on. I'm sorry, the whole season was about coasting until the playoffs. Now that the playoffs are here, I don't expect the C's to come out
Right.
and go,
No, not at all.
we're
Not at
coasting for
all.
the second round now. It's like, no, this is the time. The Celtics have the chance to go back to back. First time since 68, 69 when Bill Russell coached the team. Joe Mazzulla has that in his head. He's going to be preaching that to the locker room. There's going to be a bunch of veterans in the locker room that 100% take that message over and run with it. That's just what it's going to be come playoff time. And I think there's a motivational factor to the Celtics that people are not necessarily factoring in whatsoever when it comes to this series. I think there's going to be a lot of motivation to go back to back this season, especially after the whole year where it's like, yeah, these guys were still put up
Right.
61 wins
Right.
and they were coasting. And we talked about
100%.
this a million times.
Right. I'm going to say this, though. Had I known Atlanta was just going to cave and throw the white flag, I would have picked Atlanta to see, because that was embarrassing. So let
Also,
me
no
start off by
Jalen
saying that.
Johnson and Larry Nance as well.
Right.
It's like
So
two big bodies that were just
yeah.
gone. Especially Jalen
Yeah.
Johnson. It's like, once he went out of the lineup,
Well,
done.
and Johnson was a guy that was big time for them,
Right.
Atlanta.
Especially against Tatum and Brown. Like,
Right. He's one of those
that
bigger
was your
versatile
primary
wings.
guys on those guys.
Right. So had I known that, I would have gone Atlanta. But Orlando, I'm still happy with. Here's my thing. You look at Orlando style of play and Boston style of play, and this is where I'm going to disagree with you, which I don't disagree with you often. If Boston plays their style of pace, right? If we're both doing just the slow pace game, while I agree with you, it gives Orlando a chance, but Boston plays that slow style of pace at a 60-win pace. Orlando plays that style of slow pace at a 44 win or 41, I believe. Am I not mistaken? 41.
Yeah, 41 and 41. They're
Pure
pure 500.
So they're a pure 500 ball club playing at that slow pace. So I'm looking at this from an Orlando perspective. I'm saying, well, hold on. If you're Boston, you're 20 games better playing your slow pace, right? You can play that style, right? We can run the slow game. We'll score more than you will, right? If I'm Orlando, you got to somehow come up with more offensive possessions than Boston does. And I don't think doing that is playing slow. I think doing that I think Orlando's got to speed Boston up, because I look at Orlando as they're the team on the disadvantage here, right? They're the team that if they're playing the same way Boston's playing, then Boston's just going to outclass them, out-talent them. I mean, God, the talent dispersity, you want to talk about talent dispersity, it's probably the biggest in this series is Orlando versus Boston, outside of Franz and Paulo. And Franz I've been high on, but this season, that oblique injury he's just been, in my opinion, very, very poor this year. Which again, he's young, so he absolutely has those types of years happen. And it hasn't been that bad, but that's how I look at it, where it's like, okay, Orlando, if you want to play this slow brand of ball, check ball. Like I'd love to play this slow brand of ball with you. I will say this though, a point you made that I loved. They rebound. Orlando rebounds. They come up with the board. And if we're playing slow and not crashing the glass, that's where trouble starts brewing. Because then Orlando's getting more looks. Orlando's getting second chance opportunities. And that's where things get dicey if you're Boston, where you're playing slow and you're not getting more possessions than Orlando. However, I don't think Boston needs to be the team that morphs their play style. I think Orlando does, because if they're playing similar at all times, Boston will always have the upper hand. I think Orlando has to try to find ways to make Boston uncomfortable. And I think Boston gets uncomfortable playing quick at times. I think they do. But they handled Indiana really well last postseason, and they played quick. So it'll be interesting to see. I said this, Indiana vibes out the wazoo from last a postseason where you might like look at this series after this postseason, like that might have been the toughest series we played, right? Like from a physicality standpoint, from a maybe not in total number of games, right? I agree. This is probably going to be a sweep, right? Maybe they get one. You saw Miami get one. You saw Cleveland get one. You saw Dallas get one.
It's always the narrative. Oh, maybe they'll get one. It's like,
right.
Why don't we just expect a sweep? It's like,
right.
Celtics are good enough to sweep the Magic right now. Like the Magic are 30th in 3-point percentage. It's like they seriously, they have real problems.
Yeah, like
there's a reason they're in the play-in.
Right, exactly, 100%. And no Jalen Suggs is a big hit because that's probably their third best guy. So no, I agree. I think Boston's just this stone wall to the east. That's why I'm so excited to get out west, because it's actually funny. I was driving. I'm on the Cape right now. I'm driving up here. It's about like a 3-hour car ride, and the whole time I'm thinking, oh, I can't wait to talk about the West. But before we get there, let me finish up on the Celtics series. I see 4, but I do think we could look back on this series and be like, wow, that was a tough 4 games.
Let me point this out to people. Coaching staffs, this is how coaching staffs run. It's like, imagine me and you were on the same coaching staff. It's like I'm sitting here like, Celtics got to push the pace, like kind of more the play style. You're like, no, we got to slow it down. Like this happens in NBA locker rooms. Like this 100% happens.
It is.
But I'll say about this series, the Magic, a huge factor in them winning the series. Or I shouldn't say, I don't think they're going to win the series, but extending, right? Yeah, competing, extending the series. It's their ability to create extra opportunities for themselves, like you talked about. It's the second chance points. It's the forcing of turnovers. It's all of the little margins within the game where that's why I call them the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's like the Magic, they are awful offensively. They have no offensive creators out there outside of Paolo Banchero. Straight up. I mean, their third and fourth best offensive player this year, it was Jalen Suggs and Mo Wagner, both out for the season, which surprisingly, Mo Wagner, like somehow their 4th best offensive player all year. Small sample size, but former C, Mo Wagner, was out there actually putting something to the Orlando Magic name this season. But there's no offensive creation with the Magic. There are no shooters out there. And from that, it's like they can't score points. And looking at that standpoint, it's like they have to win all the little battles everywhere else to create more points for themselves. It's like the rebounding. That's why rebounding is so important for the Orlando Magic. If they're rebounding at a high rate, they're giving themselves more opportunities. They're not allowing, like if you're the Magic and you're allowing an offensive rebounding opportunity, if you're not defensively closing out, getting that rebound, if you're allowing those second chance points for another team, you're getting destroyed. You're getting absolutely destroyed if you're the Magic, because you can't create anything offensively, and now you're giving up possessions to the other team. You're going to get destroyed. That's why Orlando, they have to be so good in all these little categories. They have to take care of the ball. They have to force turnovers. They get to this was another point I saw last night. They get to the free throw line a lot. It's like they like to shoot. I think they have the second highest free throw rate behind the Los Angeles Lakers, who we all know with Lakers and LeBron, they're gonna hold that number 1 spot pretty often. I will say free throw rate. But Orlando, they have to win all the little categories. That's where they have to win the game, and that's where I believe in this series. Like if the Celtics, if they're making those categories even, or even winning those categories, they're gonna blow by the Orlando Magic. That's what's gonna happen.
100%.
And I think you said something in there too about, first of all, these two teams, they're 20 games apart. 61 wins, 41 wins, they're 20 games apart. I think if you look at some of the things in which the Magic do well on the floor, the Celtics 100% have the personnel to minimize all of that and optimize it for themselves, to the point where the Magic, I think when we see all those little categories and the small hustle categories go away for the Magic, we're going to start to see things. It's going to be lopsided over to the Celtics. It's going to sway over to the Celtics in a lopsided manner, because the Celtics, they're going to have more offense. They're going to be able to create more offense than the Magic. And if they win the little categories too, I mean, that's when we start seeing blowouts. I'm not predicting blowouts in the series, but I'm saying the potential is there for the Celtics to come out and really take it to the Magic. And I'll mention this: Celtics 1-2 against the Magic this season, both losses. No Jason Tatum. I think Jason Tatum in this series, he is about to turn into a different animal come playoff time. And looking at the matchups, I think that's all that's really that's what's we know how great the Celtics are offensively, but Jason Tatum, him alone in this series, I think is going to create enough offense for the Celtics to just completely blow by the Magic. I see some
Right. Talk about best player.
physical,
Talk about
tough
best player.
physical games. But at the same time, I do see the potential where the Celtics, the talent, the scoring, they're winning all the little margins. This could be a series in which is handled again in 4 games. 4 games, get it out of here, get it done with, move on to the next round, get that week's worth of rest, and don't even think about it until the playoffs are over. And remember when we played the Magic? Oh yeah, we'll put that on the ring. Sure, go ahead.
And you know what, too? Like, this is the fun part about this is why I like, obviously it's the playoffs, but like, this is why covering the playoffs is so much better, right? Because you get to look at these series and really like actually look at 2 teams playing each other potentially 7 times, right? Like in the regular season, there's not much you can look into, right? Like, obviously there's styles of how you want to approach games, but really in the grand scheme of things, it's the general picture of what a team's doing over the regular season. The playoffs are so special because it's like, here we are, you got one team to focus on for a week and a half. Like, what are all the X's and O's that go into this? What aspects do you need to, like, we couldn't talk like this about against the Magic back in a random game in February or January, because like the teams aren't going to look at it like that. They're going to say, okay, tonight, we're going to play quick, focus on rebounding, this and that. Right. And then on to the next one. So like, this is why the playoffs is like, it's so much fun to be in the NBA sphere, right? Like more so than like football and all, because it's like, you got 7 games, you got a whole series to look at. Each game looks a little bit different and it's a chess match and your defensive coverages change. So if you're a basketball head, this is like heaven.
Rivalries just hit way differently in the NBA than any other sport. I mean, you could say hockey too, I guess, but the 7-game series aspect, it's like you're playing a physical game, like a very personal game, like a basketball game. Like, I'm sorry, go play a basketball game with a bunch of dudes, like sweat is just flying all over. Like, it is a personal game.
Yeah.
You see those guys for 7 straight games, like by game 7, it's like, all right, I'm done. It's like, I'm done. Like if it's 3-3 at that point in time, it's like, I'm done with these dudes. I am completely done. And just to add on to your point there about just covering the team and other teams over the past, the back half of the season specifically, I'll say this too. Talking about these teams in depth, we weren't really able to do that because we didn't know which games. Like, are the Celtics hiding their hand? Are they going for this game? Like, we saw Sam Hauser defend for the entirety of the 4th quarter against the Cavs, and we're coming on here going, is that even like valuable film for the Cavaliers to look at any point?
Right, exactly.
So things like that in the regular seasons, like, you never really know. But come playoff time, it's like, by the end of this series, even if it's a 4-game series, like, we're going to know everything about Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner at the end of the day. And that's just what these playoff series breeds. It's rivalries and knowledge.
And all right, real quick before we go out west, I was thinking about this today also. The aesthetic of the bracket this year, I'm sorry, but something about the matchups that we're getting, like we're getting Knicks, Pistons, we're getting Celtics, Magic, right? That like aesthetically, like talk about like vintage rivalries. And then in the West, there's something about the West aesthetic bracket that I'm all over, like Rockets versus Warriors, Lakers versus Timberwolves. No, I don't know. Something about the aesthetic this year is there. Like if Miami can take down Atlanta, I like the way the bracket. I mean, we're in for a good playoff. Aesthetically, the way the rivalries, a little bit of history with these teams, right? You got this. We could be in store for a hell of a playoff this year. So aesthetically,
100%. I mean, before we even move out west, the West. How you can see 3 upsets in round 1 now? Is it upsets to the odds markets? Maybe not, but to the general seeding of the NBA, 100%. The only team that I would have liked to see in this year's playoffs from I guess, they could still make it. It's like the Mavericks are still down there, and the Suns, like the Suns and Mavericks were better. It's like, I would have, they would have been great, but the West, regardless, I would say the matchups that we wound up with, and even if the Grizzlies win their playing game tonight against the Mavericks, that 1-8 matchup, I wouldn't sleep on that. I mean, I don't think OKC. I don't think they're going to lose it, but that 1-8
All right, let's get
matchup,
into it. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it because I'm excited you said that. So obviously, starting out west, my opinion, the first game is kind of a scratch, like Cleveland. This first series, pick wise, where you at? You said you think Dallas takes this one. I'm leaning Memphis. Where are you? Did you say
No,
Dallas?
I'm
Memphis?
going. No, I would say Dallas if they had Kyrie in the lineup.
Right.
I'm in this. Well, if they had Kyrie in the lineup, they wouldn't be in the play-in. But that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like from an aesthetic standpoint, you're talking about the bracket. It's
Okay.
like we had
Right.
Dallas versus
Right.
OKC in the first round after
that's
last year. It's like
2011. Yeah.
that would have been nice. But this still reminds me of the early 2000s or it's the 2010s rather, because
Yeah.
feel like the Thunder, the Grizzlies, the Mavericks, they played,
Yeah.
they put round robin there a little bit in the early 2010s. But in terms of whoever faces the Thunder here, I don't see either of these teams beating the Thunder. Now, I will say this. The Grizzlies, out of all the playing teams still left, right, playing for the 8 seeds, I think the Grizzlies are easily the toughest team because you have Miami on the other side of the bracket. I think you'd have Miami give Cleveland a run there. I don't see Cleveland succumbing to Miami whatsoever. I could see Miami pushing that to 5. But this series right here, it's like if Memphis wins the playing game. It's like I would not doubt that they could push a series to maybe 6 games against the Thunder. Now I know all the Grizzlies fans out there are thinking, no way, we haven't beaten a good squad. Like the Grizzlies over the second half of the season, part of why Taylor Jenkins was completely ousted from his position is the Grizzlies, they couldn't beat a good team. Like literally looking at their schedule, like every single team they beat was a lottery team or a low-end playing team. They could not beat over 500 teams. And even right now, I think going into the playoffs, I see the Grizzlies' morale. It's like head coaches change. Ja Morant, we don't know how healthy he'll be in the series because let's face it, this whole season, Ja Morant's been in and out of the lineup, in and out of the lineup. We don't know when he's playing. It's a surprise when he's playing. If he's in the lineup, it's great. It's a nice present for the night. If he's not, it's like, well, what do I expect here? Ja Morant is typically out of the lineup. He hurts his ankle in that playing game against the Warriors. I don't know how that ankle is going to look. He was definitely hobbling on it. He was definitely limping around on it. It's not like nothing happened there. And he did play the rest of the game on that ankle. But like we've known from NBA history, sometimes you're able to play the rest of the game on your ankle, a sprained ankle, a twisted ankle, whatever it is. And then afterwards, like, it's too swollen to even put in a shoe. That was the story with Isaiah Thomas back in the 1980s with the Pistons. The Pistons, Isaiah Thomas, of course. I believe it was the 1988 NBA Finals, Game 6. Isaiah Thomas sprains his ankle in that game, plays the rest of the game. There's all those famous clips of him limping up and down the court in that game. And the Pistons, if I'm not mistaken, pulled that Game 6 out. It was either the Pistons or the Lakers that needed to pull that game out. But the Pistons pulled that game out and forced a Game 7 against the Lakers. And Isaiah Thomas, he sprains his ankle in that Game 6, plays the rest of Game 6, but then by Game 7, cannot play in Game 7 because his foot literally cannot fit in his shoe. I'm wondering how healthy Ja Morant is going into this series, because it could be a case where the other night, he plays the rest of the game on that ankle, but how durable is the ankle going into the series? If they have less than 100% of Ja Morant against the Thunder, there is no chance for the Grizzlies. There's no chance. And even with Ja Morant, there might not be a chance for the Grizzlies in this spot against OKC. Regardless, obviously the Grizzlies have to win a game tonight against the Mavericks in order to get there. I don't believe in the Mavericks whatsoever at this time. I think the Kings and the Mavericks, it's like both of them, somebody had to win that playing game. Somebody had to win that playing game. I saw them as two teams that it's like their morale probably not where it needed to be come playoff times. Like the Dallas Mavericks have just had the season of hell. Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, the 2 stars you start out with, they're not here come playoff time. One's in Los Angeles, the other is in a hospital bed. Well, I'm probably not a hospital bed, but we know Kyrie Irving tore his ACL. And those 2 guys not being in the lineup and all of the injuries ravaging the Mavericks this season, it feels like the roster has come back just a little bit at the end of the season. But I just see this as almost a spot where the Mavericks go, we lose this game and we're going to Cancun. We win this game. It's like, we got to go to Oklahoma City and back. It's like, we got to face the Thunder again. And the Grizzlies, they could actually be thinking the same thing within that playing game. It's like, our coach was fired. We lost to the Warriors the other night. We cannot believe we're even playing this like that's the funny part about what this keep calling them playing series. This playoff series could be between the Thunder and the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies, they were in the running for the 2 seed all season long behind the Thunder, and then all of a sudden at the end of the season, boom, they drop down to 8 because they just cannot win ball games consistently, actually putting up a losing record. And then now they're finding themselves playing a 1-game play-in scenario against the Mavericks. I see both of these teams kind of on the back end of the morale spectrum. That's why I see, like, if you look at the Heat, the Hawks, the Grizzlies, and the Mavericks, the Grizzlies are the best team of the four, but I think the Heat have the most morality out of all of them when it comes to and just the team spirit when it comes to actually wanting to win ball games and wanting to compete in the playoffs. I think the Grizzlies, they could have a little bit of a mentality problem behind them, but talent wise, they're going to be tough with the Thunder. They have a lot of size. They don't have a ton of versatility, but they certainly have players on their roster in which can create offensive points like Ja Morant, like Jaren Jackson Jr., like Desmond Bain, and then the rest of their roster they have a couple of wings who can defend. Now Jalen Wells, that was kind of a bigger loss than people wanted to talk about when it happened, but because at that point in the season everybody thought, oh, the Grizzlies season's lost, but like he was a real wing for that team, and now he's not going to be.
He was.
He's not going to be in the lineup. And I just think either or opponent for the Thunder, 68 wins. I'm going to point this out for the Thunder about the Thunder right now. The Celtics franchise record for wins in a season is 68, set by the 72-73 Celtics, who oddly enough did not win the NBA title. Now the next season, the 74 Celtics did win the title, but the year in which they set the record, it was 1972-1973, and that team didn't win the title, but they won 68 games. The Celtics have not won 68 games since that point. The Thunder casually put up 68 games this season. 68 wins, I should say. That's insane. That is just utterly insane. And even though, we talk about the experience with the Thunder and yada, 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 on and on and on, everybody thinks they're the most formidable opponent for the Celtics, but like, can they actually beat the Celtics? Blah, blah, blah. Even on and on through all the conversations, like, is OKC for real? 68 wins is no joke. It's a mark that is extremely historic. We see the most historic franchises in the NBA. Like, their teams don't get there that often. This might be one of the best Thunder team in NBA history, and that's just crazy considering the fact they had literally 3 MVPs before their primes on their roster at one point in time, and Harden, Durant, and Westbrook 10 years ago. But somehow, some way, this Thunder team this year might be the best OKC team of all time. And you throw them out in a first round series, whether it's against the Mavericks, who they played last year, completely different look the Mavericks are giving this year, or it's against the Grizzlies, who cannot beat a good team to save their lives. The Thunder, they're going to blow past this series. I think if it's against the Grizzlies, I think it's in 5. I think the Grizzlies could steal a game in that scenario. You whoop that trick going in game 3. It's like, oh yeah, the Grizzlies come.
Yep.
I will say though, the potential for a sweep here against the Mavericks, certainly there for the Thunder. Even the Grizzlies though, the Grizzlies, they either have to steal a game 1-2 in OKC or win that game 3. If it's 3-0 going into game 4, I'm sorry, that game is going to be a complete blowout. The Grizzlies are going to roll over. They're done. They might roll over in this whole series if they win this playing game. Who knows? But I do see it. The Grizzlies are really up for the competition. I could see them stealing a game, 1, 2, or 3, and then maybe forcing 5 games there. But otherwise, OKC, there's major blowout potential in this series, whether it's against the Grizzlies or the Mavericks, just off of the mentality of the two teams walking in. Give me OKC in 4, maybe 5 against the Grizzlies.
It's funny because Memphis and Dallas are like the two if teams, right? Like with Dallas, it's like if Kyrie Irving was playing, you look at this series and like, oh, this is a series, right? Like this could be 7-6 games. In Memphis, it's like, oh, if they didn't just fire their head coach, right? And if that ship didn't sail, it's like Memphis is a good team. They were the 2 seed at a point of this year, and they're almost a 50-win team. Like Memphis is a solid squad, but like you said, they just can't beat good teams. Thunder perspective here, right? And something you said, like, Thunder team won 68 games, right? Like this is one of the most impressive regular seasons we've ever seen in NBA history. Like that's like, we want to talk about that. Like that's what the Thunder just did. So if the Thunder aren't to at least get to the finals, this season would be a massive failure for them, like statistically and analytically speaking. Right now, again, this is a young team. They have so much time to grow. And again, they're kind of following the Celtics trajectory here with getting rushed into this situation. That's a different conversation. But as for this matchup, I agree. 4 games. If it's Dallas, 4 games in like a commanding fashion, right? AD is going to do his thing, but like 4 games and pretty like with ease. Memphis, I agree. It's pretty 50-50 if they take one, because if Memphis gets one early, right? Say they somehow snag one or two, which I don't see happening on the road. But if they were to, then I think that kind of wakes them up and maybe they get a little bit of confidence because they are a good team. Desmond Bane, John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. I mean, they have some top heavy play there. Edey, I think, is going to be a complete disaster if this series happens, and I don't think Edey's playable in this series against Chet, or even Hartenstein. But again, they have some depth at the top half of that roster. So I see 5, but I mean, from an Oklahoma standpoint, like that's what this is all about. Like this for them is a preseason to what the second round brings, and I don't really see either of these teams even making it like if Memphis wins, it's not going to be a competitive 5 games, right? It's going to be like a series where it's like, okay, Oklahoma commandingly takes games 1 and 2. Memphis pulls out a commanding random game 3 victory, and then Oklahoma's like, oh, okay, commanding game 4 win, commanding game 5 win. You know what I'm saying? It's not like a Celtics Magic where it might be like Celtics sweep, but like each game is like really close and like really like competitive almost, or like 2 or 3 are. I don't see it falling like that. I think it's just like one of those series where you look, it's like, 20-point win there, 15-point win there, 20-point win there. Excuse me.
No, I could also see I also see the play styles in this series as the Grizzlies play style, I feel like plays into Oklahoma City's hands. Because the Grizzlies, they'll play in transition. They like to go to the hole. They like to go inside on the interior and get their points that way, in a fast-paced manner. It's not like they're posting up and going down low for these points, but they're trying to drive to the basket and get points at the basket, and they're trying to push it in transition. I think under those circumstances, Oklahoma City, for one, obviously has the versatility defensively to handle those drives to the rim. But just from a transition standpoint, I think Oklahoma City is going to be comfortable playing an up and down game with Memphis. If that is the series, of course, and I'm going Memphis or Dallas, but just preparing for Memphis if they win tonight. I think they're going to be comfortable with going up and down the floor with Memphis, and I think they're going to be comfortable with the Memphis if they try to penetrate Oklahoma City's defense. If Memphis does, I think Oklahoma City is going to do a good job at assuring themselves that the Grizzlies are not consistently getting downhill with Ja Morant. I think the Grizzlies, you just look at their roster, there's not a ton of options. Like Ja Morant is your main guy. It's like Desmond Bane can create a little bit, but he's not as good of a playmaker. Just as a scorer, he's more of a just shooter within his game. Now there are aspects of Desmond Bane's play over the years that have come along and made him a better player to obviously get the max contract he's owed right now. But there's not too many options. Like Jaren Jackson and Desmond Bane. If you took Ja Morant off this team, it's like Jaren Jackson and Desmond Bane. Like they're basically Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero.
That's like yes, yep.
It's funny how they're both in the position to win the 8th seed tonight. But that's kind of how Memphis looks without Ja Morant. And even with Ja Morant, it's like Ja Morant. Sometimes the antics, like as a young player and like a young hungry player, it's like, oh yeah, Ja Morant antics, like they're fun. They can be fun here and there. But it's like at some point in the game, you'll see with Memphis, it's like some of those antics and what they do, it's like kind of seeps into their game. It's like they're not really playing their game. They don't play well. It's like Ja Morant, he's too focused on all of the hoopla, feels like going on outside of the court. It's like, oh, every fan in the front row or the team's bench or whoever, somebody else on the other team, then actually playing the game well. It's like there's too many sloppy turnovers with Ja Morant. There's too many bad shots, too many bad decisions made. And I believe they're talking about, we mentioned Bill Simmons on here a lot, but I believe we were talking about on the Bill Simmons podcast how Ja Morant, and I totally agree with this point, is they're talking about how when he used to go to the rim, he had these like acrobatic like finishes where you just thought, oh, he's totally out of control in the air, but this is actually a point in which only Ja Morant is in control and he's going to make something amazing happen. You just don't feel that with Ja Morant anymore, whether it's because of his injuries, maybe he's lost a step athletically since his rookie season and his first couple years in the NBA. Maybe that's the case, but just Ja Morant doesn't have the same pizzazz to his game. There are more antics than ever. I'll say that. There's more of the throwing the grenade and whatnot. I mean, I actually think that was a clever celebration. I'll say
Yeah,
that right now.
I liked it. I won't lie.
Especially after he got fined. He's like, "Oh, I got fined for shooting." It's like, let me throw a bomb in the crowd right now. It's like, let me do that. But I thought that was pretty clever. But outside of that, it's like there's too much attention to that, and some of his
Right.
play has just been really sloppy. And I wonder what the motivation level is out there. I know he's always been, advertised as a dog. He's hungry, wants all the smoke. But sometimes I do think it's like, okay, you want all the smoke, but I do feel like that vibe, right, that Ja Morant gives out, it used to be for the league. It's like, give me all the smoke, NBA, give me all the smoke. Now it's like it seems like there's like internal strife sometimes with Ja Morant's like front office, like obviously Taylor Jenkins, he's ousted as head coach. Like, is there more of that internal? Like he's not happy in Memphis? Like, I don't know what the deal is there, but
Right.
I just in terms of the series between Memphis and Oklahoma City, Memphis, if it's Memphis, of course, Memphis just there's just not enough on their roster. They're only gonna be able to play one way. It's gonna be through Ja Morant. I just don't think he's had the best season in the world. I think there's too many things he's focused on outside of playing well on the basketball floor. And just from that standpoint, I think Oklahoma City is one of the most versatile teams in the league. We talked about all season, 68 wins on the year. That is no joke. They're gonna come
Right.
in here and just be able to whoop
Just
Memphis. I could see you the preview you gave, it's like, oh, could Memphis randomly grab a commanding game within the series, like game 2 or game 3? 100%. But then outside of that, it's like I just see the Thunder blowing past
right.
Memphis 100%. I see the Thunder blowing past Memphis, and I also see if this is 3-0, that game 4 has the potential to seriously be one of the greatest rollover games of all time by
Right.
either the Grizzlies or the Mavericks. Whether it's either one of those teams, if OKC's up 3-0, that game 4, both of those teams, by the time game 4 comes around, they're gonna have their plane tickets to Cancun
Yeah.
booked.
Yeah.
100%.
No doubt. And it's like the way I look at it, I call Boston the stone wall of the East, right? Because it's so hard to get through. OKC's the stone wall of the West, right? There's just that little crack. There's a little tiny crack in that stone wall that a team can punch, and it's just the experience. If a team can somehow punch that experience and then punch a hole through that crack, with obviously talent, that punch has to be hard, right? You can't be a soft little like a little I don't know, a little jab, right?
Well,
It's got to
yeah,
be
yeah.
you need a little Superman punch. Then you can take down that stone wall, but Boston doesn't have that. But so again, different beast, just a different beast. Like it's like, it is what it is. If you're Memphis or Dallas, but Dallas stands no chance. Easy, clean sweep for Memphis. They stand like a little bit of a chance, probably still a clean sweep, but could see a world 5. So let's hop into this next one. Weird one because so last year, I don't want to toot my own horn, and my prediction video will be dropped on Instagram later today. But I nailed the finals. I nailed Dallas. So I'm gonna give myself a little pound in the back. I'm all over the Clippers this year, like all over the Clippers. But it's like so haven't Stephen A. Smith, and so haven't all the other analysts in the social sphere for the past 4 years, because there's this overarching like fear that you're not going to get Kawhi Leonard being healthy for a full playoff. But for this matchup, right, you got total different constructions of the teams here in my eyes. You got the Clippers, who have, a lot of structure within their coaching staff. Harden's played 79 games. You got Kawhi fully healthy. And then you have this Nuggets team that managed to get the 4 seed. Obviously, Mike Malone fired. They got the best player in the series, best player in the world. But it's like, well, hold on. Like, where is this just like, for me, I look at this series and it's like, this is a win for 2 factors. Nuggets can win this, right? Because I think the favorite should be LA. LA's played a hell of a good. I mean, shout out to James Harden. He was playing some great basketball this year. But I look at Denver and it's like, okay, biggest factor of the series for me, what Jamal Murray are you getting? That's like if you're getting, and coaching now has made this a new factor that I can't weigh it. I haven't seen it. So I really have nothing to judge with the coaching. If you get Jamal Murray, like we saw 2 years ago when they won the finals, this Nuggets team still can overcome the coaching adversity and make a run at this thing. But on the flip side, if you get a healthy Kawhi Leonard with the way James Harden's playing, with the emergence of the Zubac season he's had, and Norman Powell. Like, LA's got a squad. They got a deep squad, and they're not messing around this year, Seamus. I mean, they could make some noise.
Zubac, I'll say this: he's getting some All NBA consideration from
Zubac
people.
has been a
I
beast.
can't believe it. It's one of those players you're like, wait, what? I mean, this
Yeah.
Clippers team, it's been that way this season for them, and this is kind of the ideal season for this Clippers squad, considering all the Kawhi injuries, considering they're moving into a new arena, or they just moved into a new arena, the Intuit Dome. They had a couple of players on the roster that really overperformed. Talk about Harden playing 79 games this year. That was unexpected. Norman Powell nearly made the All-Star team. Zubac, he's getting all NBA consideration. So you definitely have some players on this Clippers roster that have gone above and beyond. And we think when Kawhi Leonard was out of the lineup, I mean, Norman Powell was huge for the Clippers during that stretch. He basically replaced everything Kawhi did offensively. Now we know Norman Powell, he's not going to be the defensive player Kawhi is, but offensively he was able to match a lot of those points. But right now, the biggest factor in this series between both teams is the health. And you already said it. Is Kawhi Leonard going to play the entire series? I'm actually going to lean towards a certain opinion here and say, yes, I think he is going to play the whole series, because up to this point in his career, it's like injury after injury after injury in the biggest moments too. It's like 2021 Western Conference semifinals, tears ACL. Last year's like you missed the whole round one in 2024. Not healthy for the other two round ones he saw with the Clippers in 20, let me see, 22, 23, 24. I don't know the history here. Like the Clippers, did they miss the playoffs that one? I don't even remember. But that's the whole point with Kawhi, is like not healthy at the right moment. Clippers coming into the playoffs, they're never the most optimal version of themselves. And I just think this playoff run, considering Kawhi, his season he's had, they put him on ice for a lot of the season. They started out the season. That's so funny. Philadelphia, they start out the year with their guys on ice. So Embiid and George, nobody said anything. Clippers, they were like, yeah, Kawhi Leonard out indefinitely. We have no idea when we're going to see him. Everybody's like, okay, cool, we'll see him eventually. Yeah, this is just how the Kawhi thing goes. Eventually, he comes back. Then he's playing every other game. We don't really know when he's going to be in the lineup. However, lately he's played consistently, and from that standpoint, I believe, looking at just the history now, he's not coming into this playoff run with a full season of games. Just straight up not coming in with a full season of games. And in fact, let me just get his actual number of games here. He played 37 games this season. So that's an extremely low number. Now, one could look at that and go, again, injury factor with Kawhi Leonard, like, oh, how's he going to look? But he's coming in with a really low amount of games on the year. I'm like, is there another like 20 games left in Kawhi Leonard? Like, say that knee injury comes 20 games down the line from now, or that next injury comes 20. It's like, can the Clippers sustain a playoff run for those 20 games, or however many games, until Kawhi, his next injury, is due? That's where I see this first round series as a potentially healthy moment for Kawhi Leonard. I think they've been putting him on ice. I think they've managed him well this season after not managing him well the last couple seasons after that lawsuit came out against the Clippers and how they were mismanaging Kawhi's knee rehab and yada yada. But the Nuggets, it's health too. And you mentioned Jamal Murray. If Jamal Murray isn't healthy in this series, forget it. If you're the Denver Nuggets, because you're not going to have
It's a throwaway.
enough offensive create. I mean, just think about the offensive creators on the floor for the Nuggets and the Clippers. If you don't have Jamal Murray, your only offensive creator for the Nuggets becomes Nikola Jokic. It's point blank center. Nobody else on the roster is really creating offense. You don't have. It's like, oh, you have on the roster. It's like you have Michael Porter. He's not creating offense. Aaron Gordon Jr. Michael Porter Jr. Aaron Gordon. Jeez, just put the junior on the other name. Aaron Gordon. He's not creating offense for you. Christian Brown is not creating offense. Like Russell Westbrook, you really don't want him creating offense consistently in the playoffs for any team. And then off the bench, Strother, Peyton Watson, all those guys. None of those guys are creating offense. And ultimately for Denver, that's where they're just, if Jamal Murray isn't healthy, they're going to have to lean heavily on Jokic. Meanwhile, the Clippers, they have Kawhi. Kawhi looks like Kawhi right now. It's the most baffling thing. It's like it's 2025 and you wouldn't think Kawhi is anywhere near where he was in 2019, yet he is right now. He 100% is. Maybe a little slower, maybe a little bit more stiff, but all the same ability is there. All the physicality is there. The IQ is there for Kawhi Leonard. You have Kawhi Leonard out there who can make a bucket, play make for other guys. Norman Powell, he can get his own bucket. James Harden, he's one of the best playmakers in the entire NBA, and we all know he can also get his own bucket. I mean, he's one of the most efficient scorers in NBA history. So just from that perspective, I mean, even without Jamal Murray, I kind of look at the series and go, or even with Jamal Murray, I should say, I do kind of look at the series and go, well, the Clippers, like, if you look at like the I really want to hone in on the trajectories come playoff time because
Right.
it matters. Like, you have the whole
Yeah.
season and the seeding that plays out, but part of the season was in November and December and January, and teams had good 3 months there. But then the back half wasn't as good as the first 3 months. So, a classic example, the Utah Jazz with Donovan Mitchell, they went 11-30 one year to start out. I believe that was his rookie year, if I'm not mistaken. 11-30 to start out the year, finished 30-11, and they finished 41-41, made the NBA playoffs. Right now, the Nuggets, they've been trending the wrong way. Now, they won their last 3 games of the season. They went 3-0 with their new interim head coach, David Adelman. But before that, with Michael Malone, like, they were really trending the wrong way. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Clippers, they were trending the right way. They've been the hot team in the NBA. They have everybody healthy all at once. And from that standpoint, I think just in a playoff series between these two teams, you have a lot more momentum going for the Clippers. And I just think you have a lot more weapons on the Clippers side right now. You have more scoring weapons, you have more weapons of versatility. You can play in multiple styles if you're the Clippers. Meanwhile, the Nuggets, it's like that versatility is really stripped from that roster from 2 seasons ago when they won the NBA title with Bruce Brown, KCP, Jeff Green was on that roster as well. I always forget to mention a guy like Jeff Green, even Ish Smith. It's like the veterans on that roster. I always forget about those guys, but I was watching Mike Malone's speech at the parade the other day because he was fired up. Maybe a couple shots of fireball before that speech. I'm just gonna say that. And he gave that speech, and the 3 guys he mentioned is DeAndre Jordan, who's still on the roster today, Ish Smith, and Jeff Green. Those veterans played huge roles on that Denver squad. Maybe didn't play the most minutes in the world, but played huge roles in just being those veteran leaders. Denver's missing those leaders right now in terms of all those veterans coming off the bench, but even the ability. And Bruce Brown and KCP, we talked about those guys more so with the ability of their games and versatility as well. It's like that is not present on this Nuggets team. You're leaning on a lot of young players. It's Strother, it's Peyton Watson, it's Christian Brown, those 3 primarily. And it's like, I don't know if all 3 of those are ready. All 3 of those guys are really ready to take the roles in
Right.
which they've taken with the team this year, specifically Christian Brown. It's like they want him to be their KCP. They want him to be partially their Bruce Brown. And he's just not to that level. Westbrook off the bench. Too many boneheaded mistakes. He's been a good 6th man with them this year. I won't lie about that. 6 assists per game. He's actually won them a couple games. Played extremely well. There were stretches of the season where he went over 20 points per game in multiple games in a week. But the Nuggets as a whole, too many young guys playing roles in which they're not accustomed to playing. They're shooting. They don't really have any shooters. Like, to both of these teams, they're 29th and 30th. If you look at Denver and Los Angeles, the Clippers, they're 29th and 30th in terms of total 3-point attempts this entire season. So raw 3-point attempts this entire year. The only difference, though, is the Clippers can actually shoot the ball. Denver cannot shoot the ball. They don't have actual shooters. They shoot at a low volume because of that reason. The Clippers shoot at a low volume because their pace. They play at an extremely low pace. Denver, they kind of want to play a little bit more up tempo on the offensive end of the floor and in transition to get some of their points that way, whereas the Clippers are a little bit more methodical, and that's why they're shooting less threes. It's not necessarily that they can't take them, it's just that their pace of the game is a little slower. But Denver, like, you're missing a shooting aspect of that team. They're surprisingly not as great of a rebounding team as you might think with some of their bodies on their roster, specifically Jokic down there, who seemingly grabs 15 rebounds a night. But I just, a lot of people are looking at this series and having themselves a hard time decide. It's like Indiana, Milwaukee. It's like, oh, people are having a tough time decide because Milwaukee has the best player, but Indiana clearly has the better team. It's like the better team also has star players as well. It's like Kawhi Leonard's going to be out here. Norman Powell, James Harden, he's going to be out here in this series. In the other series, Tyrese Halliburton's going to be out there. Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam. It's like there are other all stars in these series, and I just think, the Bucks and the Nuggets, like we are talking about how they're similar, 100% similar, because they're going to have to see superhero performances out of their players, and that includes Nikola Jokic in this series. I just don't see. I could see 100% the series going 7 games. I could see that
Right.
entirely, but I kind of see the Clippers with the upper hand in this series from just the raw versatility on the Clippers roster. They have too many offensive options. They have too many different styles of play that they could have inevitably go to. And just thinking about the size, I mean, look at the size of the Clippers. I was, harping on this last year with the Clippers. Like they had legitimate size last year. On this year's roster, just going down and looking at it, it's like okay, James in a playoff series, like you have obviously, James Harden is somebody you're going to pick on. Bogdanovich, you could pick on him a little bit, but he's a little bit better of a defender than people want to give him credit for. I know his numbers aren't great, but got to remember he's on the Atlanta Hawks, who as a team just weren't that great from a defensive standpoint. Derek Jones Jr., Amir Coffey, both lengthy defenders, multiple positions, can cover him. Chris Dunn, he's in there as well. Nicholas Batum, Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons could be played off the floor in this series, but defensively, you can get something from him here and there if you're the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard, obviously, Norman Powell's not the best defender in the world, but Zubac, he's your big man in the middle, and he's going to have to go out there and be physical with Nikola Jokic. And you just really looking at the Clippers lineup, it's like they can go 10 deep, and you do feel really comfortable with some of the defenders coming off the bench. You see, that's the thing. The Clippers, their defense off the bench, their versatility, just in their lineup in general. It's like you feel comfortable with the guys coming off the bench, mixing and matching them with the offensive players the Clippers have, and staggering some of these players. Like you can have Harden out there with Kawhi, and like you bring Harden out, it's like okay, insert Powell. Now you have more Kawhi led offense, and you insert some of these other guys like Batum, like a Simmons, like a Chris Dunn, Amir Coffey, all of those guys, Bogdanovich. I think the Clippers, their versatility on both ends of the floor. I'm in agreement with the public. I think the public is pointing out the right things when it comes to this Clippers team. They have the necessary roster it takes to go far in the playoffs. And I think the question is from this series is whoever makes it out of this series, how banged up are they going to be for an inevitable matchup against the Oklahoma City Thunder the next round? The Thunder could just blow through their series as we were talking about, and this series could be a legit 7 game series where it's going back and forth. I think the Clippers have the upper hand, but we all know how good Nikola Jokic is. The experience of Jokic and Murray together, I think, is going to, if Murray plays healthily in this series, I think that would bring it to a 7 game series. Now, if Murray isn't healthy in this series, I see this going 6 for the Clippers. If Murray is healthy, I see this going 7. But regardless, I do see the Clippers with the upper hand here. The interesting part about it going 7, it would be in Denver, that game 7.
Right.
It's not always easy to win a game 7 in Denver. However, I will say, in his career, Nikola Jokic, for all the great things he's done, 2 game 7s I look at Nikola Jokic. It's like, what happened here? Game 7, 2019 Western Conference semifinals. Still a young Nuggets team. That was the leeway. That was the pass that year. Loses game 7 to Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum on the home floor. And then last year, the Nuggets lose game 7 on the home floor to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Just saying there is some history there. Not always easy to play in Denver, regardless of that history. The last, the 2 games, 19 and 24. But I do see the Clippers with an upper hand here. I do see it as a long series, and I think this series could have an impact on the entire playoffs because if the Clippers are healthy enough to win this series and do, it's like, or either team is healthy enough to win this series and do, it's like, how banged up are they going to be for the next round? And that could really determine what happens to that Oklahoma City Thunder team. That could be one of the toughest matchups for the Thunder in the playoffs between either one of these teams. And we'll have to see what happens from that standpoint. I'll add this in too. Coaching. Tyronn Lue versus David Adelman. Adelman, 3-0, but I'm just throwing it out here. Regardless of how good of a coach David Adelman is, he's still new at the job. When you're still new at a job, it's like you can, your 3rd day of work, your 4th day of work, you probably feel good, but versus your 4th year of work, your 5th year of work, it's like a lot different of a vibe. You know a lot more things about your job than you did, the first couple of days to a week. That's the thing with David Adelman in the head coaching position. Still probably getting his feet wet under him at this point. Probably great. He's a son of a former Hall of Fame head coach, Rick Adelman. And he's probably, definitely had some basketball knowledge, no doubt. but just the routine of being a head coach, meeting every demand in which a head coach needs to meet, the standards of that. That's really hard, especially going into the playoffs versus Tyronn Lue, who's perpetually been a coach of the year candidate ever since he joined the Los Angeles Clippers and really ever since he's been with the Cleveland Cavaliers and won a championship there with LeBron. That's going to be a huge factor in this series as well. And there are just a lot of things. I would love to see the Nuggets go far. I'd love to see a Nuggets Thunder series. I think that would be wildly interesting because the Nuggets were a team I pinned as it's like, oh, they could beat the Thunder. It's like Nuggets, Lakers. I'm really looking at those two. But in this series against the Clippers, yeah, the Clippers, they have a lot of things going for them that I just don't think the Nuggets have right now.
And you know what? For as great as Jokic is, he has never in his playoff career, in his NBA career, has never beaten a 50-win team in the NBA playoffs. He has
really
still, yes,
really that is a
fact.
shock. That is actually a shocking stat to me right now.
Yes,
that is the first time I've heard that, and that is yikes.
Yeah, it is a real knock on his. Yes, never beaten a 50-win team. And the year they made the finals, it was all. I mean, because the year they won it, they faced the 8-seeded Heat in the NBA finals, and then the 7-seeded Lakers, who made like this miraculous run. So he hasn't beaten a 50-win team yet.
The Clippers went 8-4-7-8 that year.
Yeah, so I mean, it was kind of a breeze. We talk about breeze and cakewalks. I mean, no finals is a breeze, but hey, look at that one.
But, I mean, hey, we'll shout them out. Shout them out. I don't know. I mean, Nuggets, Clippers. Clippers used to be my West Coast team, but shout out to the Nuggets.
I'm gonna go Clippers in 7. Solely off the fact of Jokic is that guy. Murray will probably show up for a game or two at the bare minimum. You'll get a good, Murray game sprinkled in there at the very least. I think you nailed it. Really an underrated factor here is Tyronn Lue could coach circles around David Edelman, I believe, right? David Edelman. Edelman.
You see, in Boston, it's so natural to go, Jules.
Shout out Edelman. But yeah, Edelman, I think there's a real chance that he walks in there and he's like, I don't know what I'm doing right now. Rightfully so. Like, it's not a knock on him, right? It's more so just you're going against Tyronn Lue.
It should be expectations, really. I mean, you're hoisted. Who has been hoisted into a head coaching position with 3 games left? Like, there's no rule book. There's no what do you call it for this? Rule book? What is it called? Handbook? What do you call it? I don't know.
I would have said handbook.
Syllabus,
pamphlet, maybe.
handbook. I don't know. There's no book. Nobody wrote a book about
it. Yeah, but unfairly to him, do you have a scheme? Do you have what are you gonna do? You got to really rely on your back bench and your second guys. But again, it's you got Jokic. The Clippers are playing some great ball, so I think they dedicate this. They really control the trajectory of this series. But there is kind of like the Indiana. This is very similar to the Indiana one, where it's you have the clear better team. Just don't let the seeding fool you. Right, the Clippers are the better team, but the best player in this series is Jokic, and pretty handedly too. As great as Harden's been and as great as Kawhi looks, it's Jokic is that guy. So 7 games goes to LA. I do see a world where I think it's either I said this the same thing with the Bucks. It's either 7 or 4 or 5. I don't see us. No, I could see a 6, but I'm gonna go 7. I'm gonna lean 7.
6 or 7, I'm not going anything under that. Straight up, if a team wins in 5, if either of these teams win in 5, I will be legitimately shocked.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's get into this next one, which this, in my opinion, is my favorite. This is my favorite matchup of the entire first round. This is going to be the juiciest, the best, and in my opinion, the most entertaining. Just from the personality standpoint, a Luka versus Ant rematch, Western Conference Finals. You're getting that in the first round. LA, Ant, Randall. I mean, this is Gobert. This is gonna be a fun playoff matchup. And I'm not gonna lie, this is the one I thought the most about in the car ride. I had a lot of time in the car and I hit some traffic, and this was the game I was thinking about because it's the 3 in the West. The 3 and the 6 were so they were decided by 2 or by 1 game, right? So it's 3-6 here. Don't get it twisted. This is a dead even series, right? And I wonder what I wonder what Vegas has this odds wise at. And Now, I do know the books tend to normally favor a little bit more to LA because they know that's where the money's going to be placed into. They got to think a little bit smarter here. However, I love the Minnesota Timberwolves in this series, and I know I know because we've talked about this Lakers squad, and you're high on this Lakers squad and what they can do. And I think it's like 53% of me says Wolves, 47% of me says Lakers. I want to preface this, and I think I wonder what you think of this, but I think this is the X factor of the series. What Julius Randle are you going to get? If you get a Julius Randle that you've gotten into the back half of the season that kind of figured out how to play alongside Ant, he understands his role. He knows he's the second guy. He's 22, 25 in that area. If he can get you that, right, I think Minnesota is positioning themselves to really take control of the series. And I say that because the Lakers aren't a complete team yet. They'll get there, but this Luka acquisition was not. You talk about like there's not in their playbook this year. They did not know Luka was going to fall into their lap on when entering training camp. Here they are. They kind of break apart their big man core. They bring in Luka. It's like a different feel, right? And wow, I love what LA has at the top half of their roster. That big three: LeBron, Luka, Reeves. What they can do with the ball in their hand, I mean, it's special. But when you look at a complete team, 1 through 8 playoff rotations, what you can do defensively, bodies you can throw at Luka and LeBron, I really like what I see out of Minnesota with Naz Reid and Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle being the catalyst of that kind of just interior presence and domination that they could bring to a Lakers team. That said, it's LeBron, it's Luka. Like, I am not counting these guys out by any means, right? Like, they could still easily take this series. This is 7 games. If for me, this is a 7-game series, Lakers or T-Wolves. It's got 7 games all over it. And then that's a different conversation, though, because it's like, is LeBron and Luka, are they really going to lose a 7th game? Like, or like in LA, like, is that really a game they lose? So I think it's going to be a really fun one. My prediction, Timberwolves in 7. Real quick, Jaden McDaniels is also a big piece to this puzzle because you know what you're getting, right? You go down the line, right? Ant can keep up with Luka from a scoring standpoint, right? He's obviously not the caliber of scorer Luka is, but he can keep up. Randall can kind of keep up from a scoring standpoint with LeBron. Obviously, impact standpoint, he doesn't even come close. But it's that third, right? Offensively, that third guy, Reeves. Austin Reeves is a certified scorer, right? The guy can get a bucket. Really, he might be the best pure scoring third option the league has, right? That's where Jaden McDaniels falls. He needs to be sharp this series, both defensively on whoever his assignment is. I don't know if he's going to get Luka or LeBron, and my guess is Ant-Man gets the other one. But he needs to be sharp because he is, in my opinion, him and Randall are the 2 X factors to see where this series goes. Because if they can control the paint around that core, Gobert, Naz Reid, and Randall, I think they take it.
This one's tough because you definitely have some different styles going at each other in this one. You have a style in the Minnesota Timberwolves that's going to look a little bigger than the Lakers, whereas the Lakers, they're going to 100% play small ball in this series. And that's how the Lakers are going to have to beat the Minnesota Timberwolves. One, you're going to have to take Gobert off the floor in this series if you're the Lakers. And to me, I just don't see a world where LeBron and Luka and JJ Redick, those 3 brains in the same huddle, I don't see how they don't achieve that. Like at a certain, we're literally going to see in games 1 or 2, it's like, and Gobert, and he's coming out of the game, and the rest of the game we don't see Gobert again. Like that is exactly how I picture this going in this series, where Gobert, he's used only in spot moments, and that to me is actually a huge factor here because Gobert, he's taking up $40 million on the salary cap, on the salary sheet of the Timberwolves, and that's supposed to be a big piece if you're this Timberwolves squad. And if he's just played off the court in this series, it's like, all right, your roster gets a little thinner. That's why I think a player like Naz Reid could be the X factor in this series for the Timberwolves. If he's out there, if he's rebounding the ball, he's getting his points on the offensive end of the floor, and then defensively he's getting after it. That could be an all-around Swiss Army knife you could use if you're the Timberwolves to gain an advantage on the Lakers. And looking at the stats, this season, every team within the bottom, so the bottom third of the league, so the bottom 10, right? In terms of rebounding, the bottom third, none of those teams made the playoffs. So if you want to win in the playoffs or you want to be a good team, period, you have to rebound the basketball. We've talked about it with the Lakers. Their big man core, and this has been just a point talked about ad nauseum at this point. Jackson Hayes and Alex Lynn. That's essentially the. Sure, he could throw in Christian Kolokolo. Sure, looked a lot better with the Raptors a couple years ago as a young guy than he does. So third reserve big man with the Lakers. But that big man core is rough. That is a rough big man core. Now the Lakers, luckily for themselves, they have other wings on their roster like Dorian Finney-Smith, like Rui Hachimura, who can defend bigger players and bigs at time because they pose as those more physical, bigger wings. They're you think about the size of 6'8", right? And it's like some guys who are 6'8", it's like they lean more 6'7", 6'6". Like Rui Hachimura, Dorian Finney-Smith, like they lean more 6'9", 6'10". Like they're up there. They're with the Franz Wagners and the Paulo Bancheros of the world. But on the Lakers roster, they're going to have to play small. And I do think that rebounding could be an issue for the Lakers in this series and could be an issue for the Lakers throughout their playoff run is that rebounding factor because just statistically, they're the worst rebounding team in the playoffs. And if you look at the bottom third of the league in terms of rebounding, none of the bottom 10 teams made the playoffs. Straight up. If you look at rebounding percentage, none of the bottom third made the playoffs. Tells you how big rebounding is when it comes to winning ball clubs. And the Lakers, they just don't they don't have the ability to grab consistent rebounds. That could be a huge factor in any series they play. But what needs to be said here is again, Luka, LeBron, JJ Redick, talking about them with Gobert, but just in general with the series, I think they're going to have to. Well, first of all, they've been great at just scheming up for what they have, right? It's like making the most out of the littlest or what the Lakers just have to their availability. Those three players, LeBron, Luka, and I say players, but the other one, JJ Redick, former player, now head coach, their brains are equipped to piece together this series in a manner in which turns every advantage towards themselves, every edge towards the Lakers. And I think they're going to do that methodically on the offensive end of the floor and then defensively. That end is going to be a little interesting just from the standpoint of I think they're going to have three bodies out there who you feel comfortable with all time. Like, okay, Rui, Dorian Finney-Smith, Austin Reeves, you feel fairly comfortable with. Gabe Vincent's a fine defender. Dalton Connect, he could be a little bit better. Jordan Goodwin, Cam Reddish, those guys, all those players for the Lakers, like you feel comfortable with defensively. Luka and LeBron could be two players in which get picked apart on that end of the floor. And it's a question of how is JJ Redick and how is LeBron and Luka, let's face it, themselves too, in terms of just planning everything out for the series and adjusting on the fly. How are they going to hide themselves defensively, and what are the defensive matchups going to look like? I'll say this with LeBron and Luka too, though. Although those guys are seen as defensive liabilities, they're part of the club of size for the Lakers. Like LeBron, 6'8", 6'9", Luka, he's up there, 6'7", 6'8". And I think that could actually play a factor in this series and even the playoffs from the standpoint if we look at those guys as typical defensive liabilities and how are they going to be matched on the defensive end of the floor in the series. But I do think in a really important setting, is game six, well, I guess game six would be on the road. Yeah, the Lakers are home court here. Game 6, game 7 scenario, those guys with size, Luka and LeBron, think they're actually going to bring their A games defensively. It's not like they're going to be the best defenders in the world, but LeBron specifically, it's like I think when the moment's right, those guys can go out there and be a little bit better than they are during the regular season, and I think that could play as a factor as well in this series. But it is an interesting matchup because it's really who is going to get the best of who. This is going to be the biggest X's and O's series, right? That the scheming, adjusting on the fly. That's what's going to be the name of the game in this series because you have two completely different teams in their styles and how they want to play. Minnesota, they're a little more oriented towards playing big with size, and we all know Anthony Edwards. I mean, he loves to shoot that three ball. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they love to shoot that three ball in general. But at the end of the day, the Lakers have arguably been the more efficient offensive team throughout the season. And I do think you make a good point too of Julius Randle. What type of Randle performances are you getting in this series? Because I think he has the tendency to be a little detrimental to this Timberwolves offense at times. And I think if that's the case, and if this turns into a more offensive oriented series, so when you can see the Lakers with a little bit better of an upper hand because you're looking at the offensive efficiency and going, well, the Lakers, they're picking them apart a little better offensively than the Minnesota Timberwolves, who could potentially fall apart if Julius Randle is too big of a part of their offense to the point where I honestly Minnesota, from an offensive standpoint, I've never been impressed with even last season with Karl Anthony Towns. They always
I
look
agree.
stagnant. They always look like they're thinking with the ball. What in that Nuggets Timberwolves game, what we saw a couple of weeks ago is the Nuggets, they were consistently double teaming Anthony Edwards. And this is where Anthony Edwards, there's another level to his game to get to. Anthony Edwards, if you watch him double teamed, right? He literally looks like a deer in the headlights. He looks scared with the like not I shouldn't say he looks scared to make a play, but you can tell it's like, oh, he backs up with the ball and he's kind of like looking around like, okay, where am I going to go with this thing? Whereas you look at a guy like Jason Tatum or Nikola Jokic in a double team and it is like butter. It's like, oh, you send the double. It's like, oh, and you'll see games where it's like Jason Tatum will look over. It's like, are you going to send the double or not? It's like, I already have my mind made up. Like
Yeah,
you
like come
have,
on,
if
please.
you send the double, I already know where I'm going. If you don't, I already know what I'm doing. It's like Anthony Edwards doesn't really have that in his game yet, and I think there are definite things that you look at when considering where the Lakers are with the veterans they have, both I mean Luka and LeBron, also JJ Redick, the head coach, and some on the roster versus Minnesota. They still have a really young player carrying the bulk of their offense. Now you have Mike Conley there. I don't know if you're going to see a ton of Mike Conley. Like you can see Gabe Vincent, Mike Conley both check in at the same time this series, like constantly around. Like that's how the series could go. But Minnesota, I do worry about their offense because it's always been very stagnant. It's like if it's too much Julius Randle, I don't know if it's efficient enough. Anthony Edwards, I think you can put the pressure on him, and he's not always certain with what he's going to do. Now he's a don't get me wrong, Anthony Edwards is a phenomenal offensive player, one of the best shooters in this era today. Period. And we all saw what he did in Denver at the end of that game a couple weeks ago in one of the biggest games for Minnesota at the end of the season, just torched the Nuggets with the ball in his hands from a scoring perspective. But that playmaking, there is another level to go to
There
with
is.
Anthony Edwards' game. And I think the Lakers, just with all the brains they have in the building, I see a world where the Lakers piece together this series and actually come out and win it. I would say I'm going to go with 7 game series here because now in game 7, I just think the Lakers at home against the Wolves. You have Luca and LeBron. It's like Luca and Edwards is tough, but you have LeBron in this series as well, who just I think he's gonna have a different level come playoff time in a couple days here. I think there's gonna be extra motivation inside of him. I'm not faltering on my Lakers takes here because I have them in this series. In the second
Mhm.
round, they're going to face the Warriors and Rockets, and you never know. They could find themselves in the conference finals with the Oklahoma City Thunder. This Lakers team, I think, is a very smart ball club. I'm trying to use the word. I believe Bill Simmons used it a couple weeks ago. He was talking about how they seem a little. It's like they're put together. They're pieced together. They're a little schemy. They're a little like I don't know what you call it. It's like they
Reticulate,
no, it's like when you rope
methodical.
something together, right? It's like you kind of piece things together. It's like there's a word for it that I feel like it might have been a little schemy. Like I feel like that might have been the word, but
Right.
that's what the Lakers feel like. It's very gimmicky, gimmicky. It's like
Gimmicky. Okay.
yes,
Okay.
gimmicky, where you're like oh we have Luca, you know, they're basically gimmicky, like from a defensive standpoint. It's like, how often are you scramming? Like, how often are you switching? Like, what kind of type of matchups and where you're putting guys on the floor? Like, when guys switch, when are you doing that? That's what if you look at the gimmicky perspective on the Lakers, defensively, that's what we're talking about there. It's like when are they going to switch? How are they going to switch? How often are they going to scram? How are they going to hide different guys? And then on offense, how are they going to pick? How are they going to manipulate and pick apart the floor to take a guy like Gobert out of the
Right.
series?
Exactly.
And then the rest of what Minnesota has. how are you getting the best matchup every single time for a guy like Luka or LeBron? I think either one of those players, that's what makes the Lakers so dangerous, is they seriously have two of the best players in NBA history at the top of their roster, and they're so unselfish, they're so smart that I just think the Lakers are gonna, like, I look at this series and I go, Minnesota, they have a lot of advantages. Like, I think they're a better defensive team. I think they make sense more from a structure standpoint. They're a better rebounding team. A lot of things going towards Minnesota, which I rightfully, it's like people pick Minnesota in this series. 100% go ahead. There's a lot of things going towards them. But I just look at the Lakers and the brains they have on their roster. Luka,
What about
LeBron, JJ Redick at the top primarily. I mentioned them multiple times. Those guys, I feel like they are going to come up with something in which completely minimizes what the Wolves want to do on the floor. And I see Chris Finch and the Wolves having a little bit of trouble matching that, even with the versatility they have, because you're just going to have JJ Redick, LeBron, and Luka, three of the smartest minds in basketball. They're just going to be picking apart this Wolves team for the next 7 games. And from that standpoint, I do see a world in which the Lakers come out with this series. I think it's going to be a long series. And give me the Lakers in 7 here. I think it could go back and forth. Wolves win that game 6 on their home floor down 3-2, and then in LA game 7, I see the Lakers coming home and 100% closing out the series under those circumstances. I hate to be so high on the Lakers as a Celtics analyst and a observer, but I just like, it's like the best players in NBA history, like Luka and LeBron, like when they pair up like
Well,
this, like how are they even like JJ again, JJ Redick, like I always forget, it's like JJ Redick, you listen to his pods, it's like his one-on-ones with LeBron, it's like, why did we ever think this man wouldn't work out as the Lakers head coach? It's like this guy wasn't Darvin Ham, all right? Like this is a 15-year veteran in the NBA, played 15 plus years in the league, who's dedicated his entire life to basketball, and now he's getting a chance to coach this Lakers team with Luka and LeBron on it. It's like they don't make it out of the first round. I understand their matchup, but it's like I kind of would be shocked. I would be a little shocked if the Lakers, even all the big man talk and what's happened with their season, just with the 3 minds they have, I think they're going to have enough schematically to defeat the Timberwolves in the series. Even though I think from a team standpoint, you can just look at it, it's like the Timberwolves, more versatility, a little bit more, do a couple things a little better, have maybe more of an identity than the Lakers because of last season coming into this year. I still think the Lakers, they're going to be able to drop those X's and O's in order to find themselves a win in this series.
I will say this before we hop into the Warriors, in the Rockets. I do think it's also, you need to minimize Luka's offensive plus with putting him in as many defensive actions as possible. You need to find a way to get him in anytime he's on the floor, he is constantly in the action on offense. You are constantly going at him. Boston did that in the finals, and they kind of diminished what he does offensively by really kind of putting him in a box defensively. Right? Okay, that's fine, Luka. You're going to score 33, 35. Well, you're going to be giving up 26, 27. So you're really only a +6 on the box, like, right? Like in what you're giving up and what you're giving. So I think it's really important for Minnesota, if they want to walk away with a series win, you got to attack, because you can attack LeBron, but like, can you really, like in the playoffs, LeBron's going to like bring it up another level. Regular season, you can do that.
Yeah, I do not LeBron would be a great defender if he wanted to be. Luka, maybe not.
Right, exactly. And LeBron now has the leeway with Luka being here offensively to kind of take a back seat and say, you know what, tonight, defense, this is where I'm holding it down, right? Maybe give a little less offensively. Tonight, I'm giving you more defensively. He can do that now. He has the freedom alongside Luka. So I think it's really important that Minnesota attacks Luka. That is him and Reeves are the clear weak links defensively. You have to use that to your advantage, really attack them, because that puts yourself in an advantage. Joe Mazzulla says it all the time. Find ways to put yourself in advantage. What's one of those ways? It's attacking Luka Doncic. We've seen it with our own eyes in last NBA finals, and it worked out for the Boston Celtics. So it'll be an interesting series. I'm with you. 7 games. I think it goes 7, and it's a toss up in that 7th game. Which star shows out the most? It's hard not to pick Luka and LeBron. You are right, but I'm going to stand on it. I am going to
Anthony Edwards' Game 7 performance against the Lakers and say the Timberwolves pull it out in 7 at LA, and say Anthony Edwards has like 30 in game 7, or plays well, that to the brand will be like, this is a brand changing series for a guy like Anthony Edwards. Like, if you lose this series, I think it's fine. Like, he'll be where he's at now. People still love him and think he's the next upcoming thing, blah, blah, blah. I think it'll fall off a little bit more in terms of the conversation last year, because he made the Western Conference Finals, and the Timberwolves weren't expected to be good last year. They were expected to be good this year. There were more expectations. They didn't make it as far. There's going to be less conversation in general. It's going to stay the same, though, relatively, around Anthony Edwards if they lose this series. But if the Timberwolves win this series, particularly in a game 7 fashion where Anthony Edwards plays well on the Lakers' home floor, just making it to the second round against the Los Angeles Lakers and Luka and LeBron, it's like that is going to take Anthony Edwards to another status, even though it's like one series, like really shouldn't, like in terms of the entire scope of his entire of Anthony Edwards' career, it's not doing much physically, but from a narrative standpoint, if he wins this series against the Lakers, a lot of people are they're gonna be like last year's conversation when it comes to Anthony Edwards, like
Yep.
respark a lot of that, like
You do.
next thing in the league. Here we go.
You do. Let's hop into this one. This one isn't. It's like I don't know what to expect. Part of me, and we'll get into it, but like part
I've
of
been
me
the
is
most
just
torn
like,
on this series, I will say.
yeah,
So save the best
it's
for
like
last.
you have the 2-seeded Rockets who have played phenomenal basketball for 82 games, well coached, young stars. Amin Thompson, Jalen Green, Sengun, 3 of the most underappreciated guys in the NBA. But it's like you're going against a Warriors team that post All-Star break have been like the upper echelon of the NBA. And Jimmy Butler, and we just saw what Butler and Curry did in the play-in game. Do they need to do that every night? Like, what's to expect in this series? And the way I look at it, it's like this is Sacramento Kings, Golden State Warriors 2023 part 2, where it's like the Kings were the better team. And this is the interesting factor with this. It's like now that Jimmy's there, it's like, are the Rockets really the better team? Because if Jimmy's there for 82, it could seeding wise look a little bit different. But they're in the play-in, right? And in Houston, you can't take away what they did this year. I mean, they had a great year. 52 wins, second in the West. So that's where I'm at. It's like my mind says this probably is Warriors in 6, but it's like I need to see. I don't have any. I have no proof, no footage, nothing on what this Rockets team looks like in the playoffs. I know what Ime can do defensively. I know they're going to make life hard on Golden State, but it's like I don't know what to expect. So I'm picking Golden State in 6 because it's like it's Jimmy, it's Steph. They're probably not going to be a first round bounce.
Okay, so this is again, I'm the most torn on this series because it's a really experienced team versus a really young team. And just adding more words in there, it's a really experienced team with depth, or sorry, it's a really inexperienced team with depth, and it's a really
Right.
experienced team with absolutely no depth. It's like, what do I think of that? Because we literally have on one side with the Warriors, the you have 3 players on the Warriors who are certified April, May, June performers: Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, Draymond Green. Time and time again, it's like you find those guys. I mean, obviously Steph Curry, Draymond, the dynasty with the Warriors, but even Jimmy Butler. When playoff Jimmy comes alive, we as Celtics observers, we know how tough he can be to face in a playoff series. I mean, it doesn't matter how many hands you have in his face, doesn't matter what defender you put on him. Shot after shot after shot, mid range, going in, corner 3, going in, top of the key, going in, making his way to the basket, getting himself hit easy points near the paint, floaters off the glass, just going at his own pace. Jimmy Butler is a different animal come playoff time. He's been the player who's held the reputation of playoff player. You don't care about the regular season, but hey, once the playoffs come around, all of a sudden he comes alive. And I think that narrative has gone away just a little bit, but I think unfairly, because looking at his playoff runs this decade, 2020, phenomenal in the bubble, made it to the finals with the Miami Heat. Obviously, we know beat the Celtics in 6 in the conference finals, lost to the Lakers in 6 in the finals. 2021, down year for the Heat. Every year, you look at 2021, every conference final team that was in the bubble, who played the latest into the bubble, the Nuggets, the Lakers, the Heat, and the Celtics, all had terrible years in 2020 and 21. Quick turnaround. You could throw away that season for a ton of different reasons. No fans, shortened season, started at Christmas, blah, blah, blah. Enters that year as the 6th seed, avoids the play-in, swept the first round by, was it Milwaukee? Yes, it was Milwaukee round 1. And after that, 2022, just misses a shot in game 7 down in Miami to really make the finals. We remember Jimmy Butler had a shot, a clear look at the bucket for a 3-pointer. Misses that 3. If that 3 goes down, the Heat probably go to the finals in 2022 over the Celtics. Instead, they don't. They lose in 7 to the Celtics. Still a valiant effort by the Heat and Jimmy Butler. Game 6, one of an all-time performance at the TD Garden. What he did to the Celtics that day, I think that was one of the best performances I've seen against the Boston Celtics in such a spot in a long, long time. The Celtics up 3-0, Heat season on the line. Jimmy Butler comes out and absolutely, I mean, he gives basically the second version of the LeBron game 6. What's different though, the Celtics come back, they win game 7 in Miami. But 2023, again, Eastern Conference Finals against the Celtics. Jimmy Butler comes out, plays well in that series. They make the finals, taken out in 5 games by the Nuggets. But that's 3 of 4 years outside of the throwaway year where Jimmy Butler is involved in a conference final series or a final series in a big way. Last year, he hurt his knee in the playing game on a freak. It was a freak accident in the playing game where Jimmy Butler comes down with the rebound or goes up for a rebound or whatever is happening, comes down on a 76ers foot, hurts his knee, comes down awkwardly. It's a freak injury. It's not like, oh, durability running out. Oh, he's injured. Oh, Zion, LaMelo, he's always injured, or, Kawhi Leonard, whoever. Just a freak injury. Misses last year's first round series against the Celtics. Celtics, it's a cakewalk. I think with Jimmy Butler in that series, maybe it's a little tougher for the season. Not saying the Heat would have won, but maybe it's a little tougher. Now, all of a sudden, since Jimmy Butler wasn't around last year, and it's been 2 years since he made the finals, the conversation and narrative has been escaping Jimmy Butler. Like, oh, he's playoff Jimmy. I haven't seen him in years. Like, I would playoff Jimmy. It's like, whatever. Like, that's not even a factor. It is a factor. Okay. Jimmy Butler has not left. Playoff Jimmy has not left the conversation. Right. The other night in the playing game, when I heard he had 38 points, I'm going, really? Like, we're doing this again? Like, playoff time when Jimmy Butler comes around and he's just an animal? It's just a complete animal. And there could be some motivation there in the series from the standpoint of Houston. They thought, should we go out and get Jimmy Butler, throw some assets at him, Cam Whitmore, Jabari Smith? And then this season, they're like, no, we're not trading anybody. No, not even an option for Jimmy Butler. There could be some animosity from Butler's side, I will say, like, oh, Rockets, you didn't want to trade for me. Well, now you're playing me in a playoff series. Good luck with that. I think there's going to be some of that with Jimmy Butler. It's phenomenal the other night in the playing game. You have Curry out there as well. He's going to play well. And both of those guys, you know what you're getting. The rest of the Warriors team, that's the question. What are you getting out of the rest of the Warriors? It's like Moses Moody, Brandon Pajimski. It's like Jonathan Kuminga. He's apparently out of the lineup. It's like just out of the lineup. It's like, you're really going to ride with Gui Santos and who else am I thinking? Quentin Post? Like those two guys? It's like that concerns me when I look at the Warriors. Like, man, they are really thin after their top 3. It's like Jimmy Butler, Curry, Draymond Green. It's like you have Defensive Player of the Year, playoff Jimmy, and the best shooter of all time. And then you have just a bunch of guys. Literally just a bunch of guys. Like, I don't know if these guys would be getting regular playoff rotation minutes on most other basketball teams. Maybe Buddy Hield, maybe Pajinski, and it's like they're really thin. It's like Looney, maybe. They are really thin after their top 3. They don't have a ton of versatility. Meanwhile, Houston, they have a lot of versatility. They have a lot of athleticism. Their legs are a lot younger. They can go deeper. The better rebounding team. They play with more styles. And their head coach, Ime Udoka, he's already faced the Warriors in a playoff series before. And that was back in 2022. And maybe, just maybe, Ime Udoka learned some things from that playoff series back then against the Warriors.
Coverage. You don't do it.
That could potentially play a factor in this series. And I think it's like I'm still torn on it because playoff Jimmy and Curry, that alone, it's like I the experience of the Warriors just should take them. It's like the experience and playoff Jimmy and Curry. It's like that should be enough to maybe take them over the top of this Rockets team who, let's face it, they don't really have even after all their even after all their, talk about all their talent, don't really have a lot of creators. It's like they don't really have the guy down the stretch in which they know they're going to. I think the guys they go to, it's like Fred VanVleet, not the most efficient scorer. Jalen Green, not the most efficient scorer. It's like, I think in this series, what would be interesting, go to Şengün down the stretch. Oh, and when they go to Şengün down the stretch, I love their offense. It looks like the Denver Nuggets offense with Nikola Jokic down the stretch of games when they give the ball to Şengün and let him create from the post. But you do have Kevon Looney there if you're the Warriors to stifle some of that. And I think the Rockets, the big question with them is who's going to be the main option? Who's going to be the primary creator of points in crunch time of games? Because if this series is close, right? There's crunch times in games 1, 2, 4, however many games. You're going to see the Warriors with an upper hand. They know they can go to Jimmy Butler in those moments. They know they can go to Steph Curry in those moments. Meanwhile, Houston, it's like, do we go to Fred VanVleet? Do we go to Jalen Green? Do we go to Şengün? It's like, how much opportunity do we give Amin Thompson? You kind of had that problem with the Rockets. And this is probably one of the most interesting playoff series in the last couple of years from that standpoint. You have seriously this really deep, athletic, versatile Rockets team, highly inexperienced, missing a creator out there, versus the Warriors who know definitively who their creators are going to be, where the bulk of their offense is going to come from. But the depth is just not there. The versatility is not there. And I think if Houston had a different head coach other than Ime Udoka, I think I'd be leaning definitely. It's like Warriors in this series. But I think the Ime factor, that may be the biggest X factor in this entire series. He might actually scheme this series up to the point where the Rockets can beat the Warriors. But there's just a lot of, it's like the Rockets down the stretch and just the
Right.
experience of the two squads, like specifically with Butler and Curry and Draymond and Kerr. It's like I don't even know how to pick this series. I'm just gonna say it's gonna go 7, and maybe under those circumstances, I could definitely see the Warriors pulling it out, because if you're going 7 and you're going crunch time, it's like the Warriors, they know more. But wouldn't be surprised if this is like a 6-game series and the Rockets pull it out. So
Right.
I don't even want to pick this series. I don't even want to pick this series. I just think this is easily like, I've never been this like all the other shows, like Indiana, Milwaukee's like, nah, Indiana's way. It's like Denver, Los Angeles, like the Clippers. It's like the series. It is seriously like, this is it would the range of what could happen. It's like Warriors in 5. I'm not surprised. Rockets in 5. Oh, also not surprised. It's like that's the range we're at. It's like a sweep.
Right.
The only thing that'd be surprising is a sweep. If either one of these teams won in 5 games, I'd be like, I could see it. That went that way. Oh yeah, obviously the Rockets more versatility, more athletic, of course. Or the Warriors, they pull it. It's like, oh, of course they had better crunch time guys, better playoff guys. It's like there's just literal. It's like both teams have either like the biggest flaws in the world for playoff teams, and also the biggest advantage. Like they both have a different scale of them on each side. And
Right.
I don't know how to pick this series. I'm tempted to say. I can't. I can't. I'm literally like, Warriors, like, nope, Rockets, like, no, that. It's like, do I believe in Ime or do I believe in Jimmy? I don't know. Do I have a coin in here? Do I have a coin? I'm literally gonna flip a coin. I'll flip a coin for this series. Where's the coin?
Right.
I don't know if I have a coin. I have a chocolate bar.
That works.
I don't know.
50-50, two sides.
I don't know. How do I not have a coin in here? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Here we go. I'll flip this. Here we go. Tails, Warriors, heads, Rockets. It landed on the Warriors. Tails.
Okay. Tails. We'll just go coin flip Warriors. Interesting. Like for me, it's like the Warriors are relying on one other guy to get it done, right? Because Steph and Jimmy are gonna get it done. They just need one more punch, right? It's like Houston, you're kind of relying on like 4 different guys to get it done. And it's like, if you look at, for me, I look at it like that, and it's like, are they going to be able to get 4? Maybe not 4 every night, but I really believe in Amin Thompson. I really believe in Şengün. I really believe in Jalen Green, right? But it's like, I haven't seen it. I don't know.
I'll point this out though. All the players you just named though, they're like the same age as us.
No, oh my, the Rockets, what the Rockets showed us is that they're gonna be a problem in the West. You do not want the OKC versus Houston Rockets Western Conference Finals for the next 4 years are gonna be special. I mean, Amin Thompson is gonna be special. Jalen Green is gonna be special. Sengun already is special. He was an all-star this year, but he's gonna be this team is so, and you got Ime, who's a young like this is a great team. But again, we said that about the Kings, and look what happened. But on a serious note, like, no, you're right. They're young, they're athletic, they're hungry. But on the opposite side, the Warriors, they're experienced, they're hungry, and it's like polar opposites of what you're getting here. I'm with you. I'm saying I think the series goes 7, and in my brain, it's like if it goes 7, realistically, that's like the Curry 40-point game. That's the Jimmy big game that just does it. So it's like if the Rockets win, it will be because it's like, no, Warriors depth, like you said, it's not there. They don't have enough. Rockets win in 6, 5. But if it's a 7 games, it's like you're not beating Steph and Jimmy in the 7th game with this Rockets lineup.
You know what's weird is like these series have the natural reaction is like the series where you can't pick. It's like 7 games, like you can't pick like back and forth. But this is like you just mentioned a series where it's like either result could mine very different. Like the result of games in this series, it could mine very different, and it could come out in different variations where. I could see like I can't pick the series, but I can also see a world where the Rockets win in 5 and we're like, oh yeah, that's what happens when you're
Right.
playing Quentin Post 30 minutes a night. It's like that kind of that I could see this series like instead of it being like the Nuggets and Clippers, I think they match up to the point where it could go 7. This series, I think it's like the two teams, I don't see it as like a matchup like where it's like going 7 necessarily. I just see it as a matchup as from the standpoint of like I don't know who's going to have the upper hand period in this
Right.
series, and whoever does could take it in 5 or could take it in 6.
Right.
100%. Like it's not. I don't think it's going to be like the Lakers and Timberwolves or the Nuggets and Clippers where if those series goes like those matchups, I think it goes back and forth, back and forth. This series, like whoever has the upper hand, it's like they just might have the full
upper
force
hand.
upper
Right.
hand and
Right.
might take the series. That's where I kind of see this falling. That's why I'm like, I don't know if it will be a 7-game series, but that's where I think you said it perfectly. If it does go 7, I think you could see on the road Curry, Jimmy Butler, especially Jimmy Butler in that scenario. It's like, oh, okay, you got Jimmy Butler in a game 7, like here he comes.
Right.
But the Rockets win the series. Like I could definitely see them winning in 5 or 6, just from the standpoint of we have clearly more talent, we're more athletic, we're quicker, we're faster. Like sometimes we're talking a lot about like schematically, like who's going to be their primary playmaker for the Warriors, or sorry, not the Warriors, the Rockets down the stretch. Now they're going to create points against the Warriors in this way. It's like might just be the athleticism, might just be the quickness, might just be the actual motivation of the Rockets.
And they got bodies to
ahead.
throw from a defensive standpoint. I mean, they have talk about versatility. Rockets might be the most versatile team we got in the league. Like Thompson, Whitmore, Eason, Green. I mean, those are 4 21-year-olds, right? And Steph and Jimmy, they're great, but you don't got the juice that these 20, 21-year-old players. I mean, they can go, you can play Jalen Green 44 minutes a game for 7 games, and he's still fresh for game 1 of the next year. Like that's how fresh in Dylan Brooks is another one. Like they got bodies. Like this is, and that's the interesting part. It's like shit. Like the Rockets have bodies, but it's like it's on the flip side. But it's like it's playoff Jimmy, it's Steph, it's Dre. It's like what? Like,
it doesn't compute. You're like I'm. It's like your phone, like the catch log is like out of whack. It's like I don't know where to go. It's like I know this, and like I'll bring this up too. A couple years ago in 2021, I was starting to get tired of everybody talking about Durant and Kawhi and Harden and LeBron. It's like everybody was talking about the Lakers, the Nets, and the Clippers. They were talking about those teams because they had the veteran players like Kawhi, Durant, LeBron. Like I just mentioned Curry with the Warriors. But I was pointing out to everybody in 2020, I'm like, folks, It's like forget these star players like Kawhi, LeBron, whoever. They're the old guards. Like the new guard is coming up in the NBA. Yet somehow 4 years later, we're still sitting here talking about. It's like, yeah, I have LeBron winning round one. Maybe Curry will roll out one round. It's like somehow, some way, it's like they're still in the mix. Like literally, these last 3 series we talked about. It's like I think I coin flipped the Warriors, to be fair. So I guess I'm picking the Warriors. But it's like all 3 of my picks. It's like, all right, Kawhi. It's like old guard who I thought in 20. It's like Curry, old guard. Jimmy Butler, old guard, and who am I forgetting? LeBron in the middle, old guard. And I was very against the old guard bag. I was like, this is the new generation. It's Jokic, it's Giannis, it's these guys, Tatum, it's everybody. Now, it's just funny how in this series specifically, it's like I'm going away from the young guys. Like I don't know, the old guys, like they might. It's like this might just matter the fact like Houston's just better. Like even though they're younger and inexperienced, like they just might be better.
This is the postseason that kind of like will show us, like, has the torch been passed, right? Because you look at it, the T-Wolves win. Although the T-Wolves, it's weird because Luka is the best player. So it's like Luka, like, it's like if the Lakers win that, it's like, okay, you have the 26-year-old Luka Doncic, like, forefront of your team. It's like, that's the catalyst of that. And no discredit to LeBron. It's just, he's, what LeBron's your second guy now. Which is weird to say because he's still so great. But like, this will tell us, like, if the Rockets, if they walk away with the win there, right, the Clippers and Nuggets, it's like, I mean, Jokic is 30, so it's kind of like, those two in my head is like even playing field. But if the Rockets, this is like the telltale series, because if the Rockets win this, then in my mind, it's like, okay, the torch has been passed, right? You got Durant, he missed the playoffs. Curry's out in round one. LeBron's kind of riding Luka's coattail in a sense, not actually, but like, I say that. But, and then in the East, it's like, okay, you got the Tatum and the Celtics, Halliburton and the Pacers, Brunson and the Knicks. Like the East is already Donovan, and like the East is new. The East has new genned up. It's the West where it's like we don't know yet. And this series right here answers all the questions.
Well, that's where I'm like, am I on the wrong side? Like, because back in 2021, I felt like I was on the right side of everything because it's like, oh, and then the Celtics emerge and the Suns emerge, and these young teams just start emerging, and whether they're making deep playoff runs or making the finals, the Nuggets with Nikola Jokic, they emerge. All these teams back in 2021, it's like I felt like I was on the right side of history when I made that take. It's like, oh yeah, all these young teams eventually did make runs. Like, yeah, the Clippers, like they never made a run. It's like the Lakers never really made a run. Outside, I mean, I know the Lakers made the conference finals in 2023, but like actually contending, that Lakers team was a 7 seed that year. It's like I felt like I was on the right side of history at that moment, saying, okay, the young teams, they're going to come in and take over. Everybody's talking about the old. That's what I'm trying to decipher right now. I'm like, are we talking too much about the old? Like the old, I will say, I mean, guys in their 30s, but the old, it's like they have interesting teams. Like, oh, the Clippers, they're interesting. Like 35-year-old Kawhi, or not 35-year-old Kawhi, 35-year-old Harden, and then Kawhi, he's up in his 30s now, almost his mid 30s. It's like, yeah, the Clippers, like they're interesting, but they're a little like Kawhi and Harden, like a little older. Like LeBron, obviously, he's 40. You have Steph and Jimmy, they're 35 and above. Draymond, same thing. I'm like, are we just like the heads of these teams are 35 and above or hovering around that age, like mid 30s. And in 2021, I was looking at some of those guys and I'm like, all right, guys going into their 30s, mid 30s, like the guys who are coming into their, 26, 27, 28-year-old seasons, like those are the guys who are going to make the finals. Those are the guys who are going to take over. And that's what I'm wondering right now. I'm like, are we talking a little bit, like, are we talking up teams like, say, the Warriors a little bit too much, like the Lakers a little bit too much, like and the Clippers and maybe even the Nuggets as well, like all those teams, like maybe the younger, like say Oklahoma City, they're obviously younger. Oh, Houston as well,
Houston's
Minnesota,
like
those 3 teams,
exceptionally young though. Like if you look at Houston, they're like really, really young.
That is true. I mean, Alperen Şengün is literally like, I want to say he maybe just turned 22, like which is just shocking because he was in the NBA 3 years ago, and it's like he was he's like how old? He's still like he's basically the age of a rookie in his year 3 season. But yeah, it's like, are these young teams, like, are they just ready to take and you make a great point, is Houston is exceptionally young within this equation, but are the young teams ready to take that torch, or does the old guard? It's like, oh yeah, experience is going to matter here, and the old guard has enough. That was part of the conversation in 2021. It's like the old guard it's like the Lakers didn't have enough. It's like the Nets. I mean, eventually they didn't have enough with all their injuries and blah blah blah. But it's like, I don't know. It's like, am I on the right? Like, I don't know if I'm reading. Like at one point in time, I'm always like, the young guards, like they're gonna come up, they're gonna be the guys. But at this point in time, it's like you have OKC, like not as young as Houston. They're still like they're really young around the fringes, no doubt. It's like you have Case and Wallace in that series. I mean, if you're looking at Hardenstein and Jalen Williams as your number 2 and 3 option for the Thunder, it's like that's year 2 and year 3 working there. It's like, you remember Tatum and Brown year? There's like they weren't ready for that spot yet, but you have an MVP in Shea, and the rest of the roster you have veterans on like Caruso and Hardenstein. Is that enough to bring that team over other teams
that's the narrative.
such as the Clippers or the Nuggets or the Lakers or
Right.
whoever? They're even I mean the Rockets, we're talking about being young, but some of the veteran-led squads.
I put out that narrative last year on the Celtics and Tatum. It's like you looked at that team last year, you're like, all right, Tatum's 26, Brown's 27, Porzingis, like it's just their time, right? And it's like that's the interesting part about the Rockets, right? Like we just talked about. It's like, okay, like the Rockets, if they're 3 years, right? Say this is the Rockets 3 years from now playing the Warriors today, you probably look at this Rockets team and like, okay, the Rockets are the easy pick here, right? Because now we'll see what the second poor Rockets, because that second apron is going to break that team apart. But I mean, I named off 6 guys who are all under the age of 22 or 23 and have the trajectory, in my opinion, to be all-star, all-defensive caliber of players, which is bonkers. Rockets aren't talked about enough. But no, I agree. No, I really do agree. And that's where it's like you got to look at it in matchup-wise. I think the youth plays a factor until a player has reached 25, right? Because they hit 25, it's like, okay, that's your prime. 25 is probably the first year. 24, 25 is the first year where it's like you win, but like you lost, like, right? Like Luka was 23, 24 when he got to that Western Conference Finals and lost to the Warriors. Tatum was an exception, but like Giannis, for example, in 2019, got to the Eastern Conference Finals, lost. He was 25 when that happened. So it's like, normally it's like you hit 24, 25, and it's like, okay, you're in the threshold of you got experience and enough of it to get you to a certain point. And then it's like, there's the 28-year-old who's in his prime, right? It's like, there's the 30-year-old that's in his prime. But it's like this Rockets matchup, it's like they're just so young. But like the Lakers, Luka, 26, right? It's like, like he's got that extra 3 years, those pivotal 3 years on Ant-Man, or it's like those 23, 24, 25, when you're in an NBA, like that's where your career's made. Like those losses, what you go through, that jump you take is 23 to 26 is probably a bigger jump than 20 to 23 is in the NBA, just in terms of what you see and what you go through. So it's like, no, it's an interesting point of like, when's this torch? Because in 2021, you're right. Like, when's this torch pass? Like when is when's the new gen like, okay, no, this is our league. We might already be there though. Right? We might already be there.
That's what I'm saying. And I'll point this out too. Alperen Şengün, 18 days older than me. 18 days older than me. So just saying, it's like, how is that? It's like he's already been in the league for 3 years. Like,
3 years. Oh my God, that's insane.
But yeah, the thing is with some of these young teams, like specifically the Rockets and maybe even the Thunder, it's like, Thunder, we'll dissect them in a second here. But it's like those teams, some of the teams, like, are they going to have that losing moment before they break through? It's like, and are we not giving OKC enough credit for losing last year and even the year before? The year before, OKC made the play-in, and they won that 9-10 play-in game. They won it, and I don't remember who they faced, but they blew out whoever they faced. And then that second game, they faced the Minnesota Timberwolves, and that was the kind of the precursor to that play-in game. It was the Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oddly enough, they played for the 8th seed in 2023. And then in 2024, that was 1 and 2 in the West. It was OKC, Minnesota. They both broke through that next season. And kind of talks on the young guard conversation, how both those teams made the play and then finally broke through. It's like that's where they were in the process of eventually going up and up and up into a contender status. But last year, it's like both of them are 1 and 2. OKC loses round 2 to the Mavericks. in 6 games. The year before, they lose the playing game. And now they win 68 games. They're a juggernaut of a team. It's like, have they done enough losing for us? Do
Right.
they need to lose one more time? Like,
Well,
it's not about the losing. It's really about the matchups and what comes in front of a team. But
right.
I'm basically what I'm looking at here is, does OKC? It's like, does the experience even matter with them as much as, say, the Rockets, who, like, I think the experience
Depends who they see.
100% matters with the Rockets because they haven't been there, whereas OKC was there a little bit last year. They got their feet wet a little bit last year. It's like, was that enough?
Ah,
It's like, was that enough? But I'll say
mm,
this: conference finals and finals,
different beast.
different animal indeed,
It's a different
100%.
beast.
And that we gotta. All we're gonna do is just. That's why I love the NBA playoffs. Is you
Oh,
find
yeah.
out all the answers to these things,
You
because
do. You
right
do.
now
It's
we are,
exciting.
most regular seasons, you're just in limbo the whole time with a million questions that we're putting on the
Mhm.
test come playoff time. And then once the playoffs roll around, all the players, all the teams, all the coaches, they're putting in answers to all those questions on the test. And eventually we see who comes out with the narratives positively or negatively. And that's what I love about the playoffs too, is that you, right now, the narrative on all these teams, we'll be able to look back at this video in even a week, but say 2 weeks, 3 weeks, when all these series are over. It's like, we're probably going to be like, see, it's like, the Rockets, it's like, clearly they're too young. It's like, clear, the
Right.
Warriors, like, it's like,
Yeah,
we'll notice, like, we'll know
yeah,
exactly
yeah.
what the result is after the playoffs. And now we just have a bunch of in limbo conversation when it comes to the NBA playoffs. But I'm glad we are finally here. I'm
Right?
glad we're
Let's
finally at the
go.
I mean, come
Tomorrow
on.
it
Like, the regular
starts.
season, like, I'm done with this Charlotte Hornets and the Utah Jazz and the New Orleans Pelicans and whoever else is tanking, the Sixers, the Nets, the Raptors, the Wizards. Thank you. I was like, I'm forgetting a crucial lottery team. I'm done with these teams right now. I want to talk
Right?
about the Rockets and the Warriors and everybody else
Well,
here.
the,
Come
the
on.
first round of the playoffs is always the best, right? Because you get like a week straight of meaningful basketball every single night, and you're just like, oh, like tomorrow I get to wake up 1 o'clock, first game. I believe it's Indiana Milwaukee's the first game of the day. It's like I'm watching basketball from 1 to midnight all day tomorrow, and every game, every second, it's play like it's. You're so right. I mean, especially in today's league, it's like, I mean, we've talked about this, like the tanking, it's just so diluted. The regular season, it feels like, really, if you want to look into ratings, it's like the tanking. I mean, there used to be like 1 or 2 teams tanking. Now there's like 6 or 7 or 8, and it's just like there's a threat. I mean, whoo, it's just too many, too
Yeah,
many.
I don't want to go too far into it, but seriously, what happened this season and some of the line, I mean, I went on a 17-minute rant about it on Postgame after game 81 against the Hornets. I thought I remember back in 17-18 the league putting in rules against resting, and I don't know if it was that season or they were talking about, it's like, how do we minimize tanking? We don't want teams losing on purpose. Yeah, like they were doing a lot of research and rule adjusting to how do we get teams to not tank, and the play-in, as we're seeing tonight, of course, with so weird. It's like we get the play-in tonight, playoffs immediately tomorrow. A little weird of a schedule, but the play-in's taking place tonight. And it took place throughout this week. That was part of the whole. Hey, maybe we throw in the play-ins. Like, hey, when you're the 11 or 12 seed, instead of just tanking away the season, maybe you try to go and compete. Now we see this
He's
year
like,
the
nope.
fact that the Chicago Bulls did everything they could to fall out of the 10 seed and absolutely could not, finishing 9 games over the Raptors for that 10 seed. 9 games between 10 and 11 this year in the East. 9 games. It's like 9 or 10 games. I believe it was 9 games. But it's like, plan was supposed to de-incentivize tanking. Nope.
Yeah, no,
Nope. It's literally a 1 game elimination. Goodbye. It's like, didn't work. You have all
yeah.
these teams like supposed to be like not resting players, yet they loophole it by getting a doctor's note. It's like, oh my
Right.
God,
Al
Al
Horford's
Horford
out
and his
half the
big
year.
toe. It's like, oh my goodness, Drew Holiday and his shoulder impingement.
Exactly
It's like,
my brain was.
write the note, write the note, doctor. Write the note, doctor. We need, this man cannot play basketball tonight. This is egregious. This is bad. This is terrible. It's like, how did teams loophole this so well to the point where we're watching Yusuf Nurkic and Seth Curry and who else was out there for the Hornets at the last
Oh
game of the
God.
season? I mean, it was
Bismack Biyombo was out
KJ's.
there.
KJ Simpson. I can't even remember the names of the players playing for the
It was
Hornets that
bad.
night.
It was
Might as
bad.
well bring like in these situations. You know what I want to see tanking teams do? If you should have to. This is what they should do. This is what they should do. Total just came up in my mind. They should designate at like All-Star break or whatever, tanking teams, right? It's like you cannot make the playoffs. Like you're not making like check mark, like the
Right.
Raptors are not making the playoffs. And then for
Right.
the rest of the season, you get like, no, this is way too gimmicky. You get like 5 extra roster spots
Yeah,
and
you
you
say like
sign
sign
whoever. Just sign whoever. It's like Isaiah Thomas, sure. Out of the
Yeah,
G
I
League,
knew
like
you were going.
LiAngelo Ball,
Kemba,
Taco Fall, like just get seriously. Like I know
infinite
it'd
money too. Give pay them as much as they want.
it would be so gimmicky for the league and it wouldn't work. It's like competition, blah. I understand why it wouldn't work. But it's like Yusuf Nurkic, why am I watching him play 20 minutes in game 82? It's like, why am I doing this? Like, why is NBA like any fan watching Jazz Wizards at the end of the season? I'm sorry, like why even hold that game? Like just have it as a tie. Be like, you guys don't even get to pick up a loss or a win tonight. Like you guys this is ridiculous. Like we shouldn't even be playing right now. It's like, oh, we have it's like, oh, Brandon Ingram with the Raptors, like, oh, he sprained his ankle in January, missed the rest of the season. It's like, oh, Lauri Markkanen injures himself. Missed the rest of the season. Tanking's ridiculous. I'm glad we're to the playoffs though. Like, geez, I could complain about this all day. I don't like
We
to
are finally
complain
there.
except when it comes to NBA tanking and what the NBA does about their league sometimes, I will say.
Well, you don't got to worry about it anymore because we're finally to the playoffs, guys. The playoffs, they tip off. Well, technically, the last day of the play-ins tonight, but they tip off tomorrow at 1 o'clock. The Celtics, they first round matchup against the Orlando Magic is Sunday at 3:30 on Easter, a midday matchup for the Boston Celtics. Game 1, guys. After game 1, the final buzzer sounds. Come right back over here to this YouTube channel, Celtics Talk Weekly, and tune in to Postgame Live. We will have you covered live for Postgame for every single playoff matchup this year, guys. If you're not already subscribed and turn on those post notifications because we are coming with some serious heat this postseason. A lot of content coming your way, not just the C's. We're going all around the league this postseason, baby. We're going to have you covered in all aspects of the NBA basketball because it's going to be a fun one. Guys, thank you for this. Was almost a 3-hour show, and I thought we were rolling on it. I thought we were just touched over 2 hours. So this one was fun. It's that time of year where I could have gone for I could talk about the playoffs, baby. But guys, again, until Sunday, the game finally it's here. Game 1, Celtics Magic, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Cue the rock music, guys, and you know the drill. Until next time, go Celtics.